Welcome back to another edition of the Rodcast, Monday Fun Day edition of the Rodcast. Plenty to get to on the show today. Not going to waste a lot of time talking about it because we got to get right to it. We'll talk about the Cowboys and the Texans, both of their preseason games, week 2 in the preseason. We'll get into what we saw, review all the NFL news, notes, and nuggets from the preseason, including something that I believe we haven't seen in the modern era of football. I believe it's been done before, but not in the modern era of football. And of course, Patrick Mahomes would be the one to do it. We'll get into that too coming up here in this segment. We'll also dive into the latest in the CD Lamb contract negotiations with the Cowboys. We'll do that next segment. Peyton Manning gives us his top 5 favorite quarterbacks. I don't know if he actually just kind of ranked them. I think he said his top 5 favorite quarterbacks in the NFL. We'll get into that next hour. The Longhorns had their second scrimmage of the training camp. We'll dive into what guys stood out, who won the scrimmage. We'll get into a couple of injuries, actually, that the Longhorns were monitoring from that scrimmage. So we'll do that when we go behind the burnt orange curtain. Next segment, we got your usual favorites, Rod's rant of the day. We also got the topic for the big fat poll of the day from our man Patrick. We also have off the record, who said that, what the facts, what the stats, all your usual favorites. So don't worry about that. Before we do, let's introduce you to the rest of the crew. He's one of the hardest working members of the ARN family. Got a hustler spirit, period. Not sure what he's paid, but pretty damn sure he's underpaid. Ain't no 401k for this hustler, and he's a hustle man of many talents. It's our friend, co-host, and neighbor. Of course, it's Patrick Davis, y'all. What's going on, Patrick? How you doing, brother?
I'm doing good, doing good. Got a lot of yard work done this weekend. Got a lot of chores done this weekend. Do you know why?
Adulting.
Well, because it's the last weekend before college football.
More importantly, yeah.
And so you really had to start getting it's like everything's got to be done before now, because in the next 2 weeks, it's my weekends are gone. They're done. They're now football weekends.
They're spoken for.
Yes. So I had to. This was the clear out. We have our front yard is now, the entirety of it is covered in brush, because it is our brush pickup in the neighborhood. We cleared out a massive amount in our backyard. So it was a productive weekend. But it is the last Saturday before college football. So you had to get some stuff done. Then we got one more week of preseason, then the bye week between the preseason and the regular season, and then we get into
it's football season.
And then, God bless America. Then it's Saturday and Sunday, and then there's no days off. You're just going then.
Oh, yeah, exactly. And I know some of you ladies out there are disappointed, but it's okay. It's all right. You'll get your men back in about 5 months. It's all right. But for now, football season is upon us.
It is.
It's a beautiful thing. Yes, it was no doubt.
And to tell you all about it, my co-host, let me introduce him to you. He's a proud alumni of DBU. He's got more papers than Dunder Mifflin and watches more film than Siskel and Ebert. He is the new Rod Father of Boston Sports Radio, Mr. Rod Babers.
I appreciate the intro as always. Got so much stuff to get into on the show. So of course, that's how football season is on Mondays. You just got too much stuff to get to. We won't even get to everything. We won't try to get to everything. This is just some preseason stuff we'll talk about. But let's get ready to dive right into it. We'll talk Cowboys preseason and Texans preseason stuff we saw that we liked. Then we'll get into something that people in the modern era, football fans haven't witnessed this in a modern era in an actual football game, I don't think. But there is evidence that it has happened before. So we'll discuss that. Patrick Mahomes did something that awed and wowed people over the weekend that we'll dive into. Actually, him and Xavier Worthy too. It showed out. Xavier Worthy caught some passes from Patrick Mahomes, but didn't caught his first touchdown, at least preseason touchdown, so not official. Did catch a touchdown from Carson Wentz. People forget Carson Wentz is on that damn team, but Carson Wentz actually looked pretty good and had a long touchdown to Xavier Worthy. So we'll get into that too coming up in this segment if we have some time. But of course, we'll talk about the Longhorns because Jordan Whittington, there's a nugget I got to give you about Jay Witt, who also had another really good weekend in the preseason. Ain't no doubt he's going to make the team now. As Patrick mentioned, we're kind of talking about whether he's going to get some target share at this point for the Rams. All right, whether he's their new diamond in the rough. They got a reputation of finding these gems, wide receivers, middle to late rounds. Cooper Kupp, Puka Nacua. A lot of Rams fans saying this is the next one, that it's him, that he's the guy. He's going to be the next one in that line of diamonds in the rough at the wide receiver position for the Rams. So we'll talk about that too. We got some sound actually of Cooper Kupp talking about Jordan Whittington and his ascent with the LA Rams. So we got a lot to get into. Let's not waste any time. First, let's get updated. Let's get educated. Let's get informed on all the top stories of the day with my man Patrick Davis and the Horn headlines.
All right, Horn Headlines brought to you by Top Gun Rentals and Lawn Equipment. In the MLB, the Astros won their series with the White Sox over the weekend, with Hunter Brown and Framber Valdez both picking up wins. The top Astros prospect Shea Whitcomb made his MLB debut on Saturday, picking up 2 hits, filling in for an injured Alex Bregman. The Astros now start a rough stretch of schedule against the Red Sox tonight, with no days off until September and facing all winning teams in their next 4 series. And the Rangers close out their series with the Twins, picking up extra innings victory on Sunday. Adolis Garcia walked off the game with some good base running and after an infield hit and error by Josh Young. The Rangers now move on to their series with the Pirates, likely pitching a bullpen game tonight. And in the NFL, the Texans got a 28-10 win over the Giants, scoring first on a Jalen Petrie pick 6, then adding a John Mechie receiving touchdown and 2 British Brooks rushing touchdowns. And the Cowboys beat the Raiders 27-12 with Trey Lance scoring both the passing and rushing touchdown in the game, taking most of the snaps at quarterback. And that is your Horn Headlines.
All right, Patrick, thank you for the Horn Headlines. Let's dive into the Texans and the Cowboys. You started with the Texans, so we'll start there, and then we'll work our way to the Cowboys and what we saw from them. We actually have some sound from C.J. Stroud that we can get to a little bit later on, too. But Derek Stingley and Jalen Petrie both ended up having interceptions. Jalen Petrie had the kind of freaky pick 6, but they've moved him back to nickel, which is essentially the slot corner, which is where he won Defensive Player of the Year in the Big 12. And I've talked about, playing nickel and playing safety and how different it is. Me and my man Quandre Diaz got a chance to rap about that because he's played every position at secondary and at safety. He even told me, he said he gets bored at safety. He's like, man, I get bored. And they have him back playing center field a lot. He's like, honestly, he said, it's, I'm literally a safety. I'm there as a safety, the last line of defense. So usually by the time I get there, the party's breaking up, honestly. And he wants to be the life of the party. As nickel, you're the life of the party. Everything happens so fast. It's all instincts. I always say you're working in a multiverse because you could be blitzing 1 second, taking on a pulling offensive lineman the next second, covering a tight end the next. You could be covering their number 1 receiver in the slot the next second. You could be a force run defender sitting the edge the next play. It's just, I played that position and it is crazy. It's wild. You're just a football player in there. Describing you as a DB is almost doing you a disservice and it's disrespectful to what how expansive your skill set needs to be there. And he's a guy that I always say you need to be more instinct, or at least you need to have a very instinctive player there. Football IQ, of course, matters, but you're too close to the ball to be able to process a lot of things. Like a lot of things are gonna, like safety, you can process. You can see the whole damn field. You can see everything develop. You got some time to see things process. Even at corner, if you're playing off, especially, you got some time. At nickel, there is no time. You're right there by the ball. Like it is just, like I said, it's mostly instinct and muscle memory. And Jalen Petrie is just great. He's just naturally one of those very instinctive players. I think he can be a football investigator, which is kind of what you want at your safety position. But man, I'm telling you, he's been making plays like that all offseason since they moved him. I think it's a good move. I think he can play both if you need him to. But I think his natural position, because of his instincts, I think it's slot. It's that nickel corner. It really is. He's great at it, Patrick.
Yeah, he looked really good in that space because he looked good in run coverage. He looked good, in pass coverage. He basically was able to make the plays and be on top of it a little bit more than before, where he made some plays as a safety, but it felt like when he was just trying to be back, it did. It's that, maybe you get bored back there just trying to kind of not mess up instead of really trying to make an impact on the game.
It dulls your senses.
Yeah,
for any city play, it dulls you a little bit.
It looked like he was having a fun time out there because you heard his name get called a lot more than you did last season.
Yeah, and it's for those guys that one play gets them going. Like they make that one play, and it's almost for them. It really does. It leads to more playmaking on their, because they're acting on instinct a lot of times too. So they operate within the structure of the defense and outside the structure of the defense. So I think that for the Texans was really good. John Mechie actually looked good for the Texans too. That's an investment that they've been hoping for a while would pay off for him. And of course he went through, battling cancer and overcame it. And that wide receiving core is stacked already, so they don't necessarily even need John Mechie to work out now. But that would be an added bonus because he looked really good too. The offensive line is coming together against that Giants front. While CJ was in there, 0 sacks allowed on him. And last year we talked about how they were one of the most injured offensive lines in the league. Actually, one of the, if you go look at the actual stats, the most injured offensive line in the NFL in the last 20 years, basically, is what CJ Stroud had to deal with. And now they're getting healthy. You got an offensive line that looks like it's forming some cohesion as a group. And if they're healthy, knock on wood, they're going to be much improved than they were last year. Like I said, there's no offensive line in the last 20 years that dealt with as many injuries as that Texans group did. Another thing for the Texans I thought was really good. They all over. They think they forced 5 turnovers as a defense. Defense looking like it'll be a really opportunistic defense. Just a style they want to play. I think that's part of moving Jalen Petrie to nickel. Just let him be an instinctive player. Speaking of instincts, Derek Stingley.
Yeah,
I tried to tell you guys that he's picking up exactly where he left off last year, Patrick. And I don't think people realize. And I said this on the show, probably a couple of months ago. I said, man, Derek Stingley last year was playing the second half of the season like an all-pro. I gave you these numbers, I don't know, whenever I had my rant about Derek Stingley. But listen to this. This is the second half of last season, all right, for Derek Stingley. He was a leader in interceptions and pass deflections from weeks 11 through 18. Had 13 pass deflections and 5 interceptions. And you start thinking about the injuries he's had. He basically last season only played in, if you go look his first 2 years, only played in 11 of his first 25 games, like working back from injury back and forth. So this is possible the light just went off for him, like the second half of last season. And he, like I said, no cornerback made more plays on the ball. He was truly looking like a ball hawk. And in the playoffs, remember, he lined up against, they had him actually shadowing Amari Cooper when they played the Browns. They had him shadowing a lot of times Zay Flowers when they played the Ravens, and he was fantastic against those guys. I mean, go look at the numbers. He pretty much shut them down when he played up against them. And he led all cornerbacks in next-gen stats. His ball hawk rate tracks whether a defender makes a play on the ball or not. Last year led all defenders in that category. So if he ends up, like I said, picking up where he left off, and right now it looks like, and what I've heard in camp, he looks sensational. That dude's a dude. And it looks like that draft pick is going to hit. That's going to be another, notch on the belt of Nick Caserio, because a lot of people were questioning that draft pick when he was dealing with injuries. But right now he is looking like a straight up all-pro potentially at corner for the Texans.
Yeah.
That's how he's looking like. He's got that kind of ceiling, I should say. That kind of ceiling as a player.
Yeah, no, he's, that secondary, I think, you move Petrie over to nickel, and then you get Stingley start playing a little bit better. That's where you're starting to get a secondary that D'Amico Ryans is starting to have those, the linchpins and the stalwarts that are going to be there for several years for the Texans, and then you can kind of start to build around it. You've got that D-line coming up, but as long as you get a couple of guys in that secondary you feel can stay there every year, that's when you can start to take, secondary a little bit later in the draft every year. And if you find some guys who can play, you got a bunch of projects also in the secondary. If one of those guys works out, that's another person you can keep in that lineup for a little while. But yeah, it's definitely when you realize you have that pass rush and now guys in Petrie and Stingley that you feel can make plays when you pressure the quarterback, you can make big splash plays for the Texans and get the ball back in the hands of your offense.
Yeah, I forgot about the projects, man. Great point. So CJ Henderson and Okudah.
Yeah.
Are the two former first round picks they brought in, guys who are considered to be busts. But we'll see in this defense if they can kind of resuscitate their careers. That would be huge. And I forgot all about that. Secondary looks like it's going to be a strength for the Texans. The secondary is going to be, and we know the D-line is going to be a strength.
Yeah, and that's it. We know at Tech, for the Longhorns, it's the same concept. You're trying to help each other with. If we can get a good pass rush, we're helping the secondary, and if we can get a little bit, just 0.4 more seconds, that's 2 more sacks a season. 3 more sacks a season. Like you're talking about more sacks because the differential of hurries to sacks in the NFL and how quick these guys are getting the ball out. If you just make somebody think a little bit more. That's a couple more sacks for your defense, just giving them that little bit of time to get home, get that pump fake so someone can come off and get around that block and get the quarterback. I think that, D'Amico knows what he's trying to do. And the fact that what Petrie looked like in that game and what Stingley looked like, and I get it's Daniel Jones and the Giants. It is not, it's not the best example of you're not going up against Patrick Mahomes. You're not going up against Joe Burrow. But at the same part, they looked really good. So you want to just see that continue to grow throughout the season. Yeah, and if they can find a couple other guys in there that can just be, good enough against other guys, because, you'll see at a certain point they're just going to stop throwing the ball Stingley's way. And
that's exactly right.
And so you're going to have to defend on the other side of the ball. That's what we saw. The Cowboys have had that issue in years past when, they had Trayvon Diggs and everyone just threw away from Trayvon Diggs. And then, they brought in Gilmore and then, they stopped throwing to Gilmore and then they get Dron Bland. So they've been able to fix that the last couple of years. The Texans will just need to make sure they have that other side filled. But Derek Stingley, that was that pick. He got a lot of grief, and I gave him plenty of grief on there, that Sauce Gardner was a pick after him. You just saw Sauce Gardner's rookie season, and you went, man, you may have missed out on a Hall of Famer. But Derek Stingley right now, if he continues to grow and continues to play the way he's playing, he puts himself in there as, you can't be upset about the pick.
No, you can't. I mean, the other guy may be a Hall of Famer, but it's like if guys are being all pro, you're like, well, I mean,
you're not mad. Pick. You're like, okay, you still picked a really good cornerback.
That was exactly. And he still, who knows? I mean, that's just the way Sauce Gardner's career started. Yeah. Like I said, Derek Stingley dealt with some injuries. I love his ascension right now as a player. And so, like I said, I love the secondary, and I like your comparison to the Texans, the Texas Longhorns too, because they're moving around some pieces in that secondary as well, just trying to get that extra added layer of coverage so that the pass rush now can get home, which is something the Texans emphasize, right? They brought in 2 double-digit sack defenders via the offseason. Remember, we told you only the 49ers were the only other team, I believe, in the Super Bowl era that did that. And that was right before they won the Super Bowl, right? When they brought in all those free agents and Deion Sanders, and I think it was like Ricky Jackson was the guy they brought in. But my point being, the emphasis on pass rush and coverage and the improvement in both for the Texans, I think that it's a nice comparison to the Longhorns. Okay, let's get to the Cowboys really quickly here and what we like from the Cowboys. I'll say this, Cowboys, I'm not gonna lie, man, Cooper Beebe and right now Tyler Guyton look like those are once again hits for the Cowboys on the O-line. Cowboys on the O-line, when they are on in terms of their talent evaluation, drafting on the O-line specifically for the Cowboys, they do it pretty good in the trenches as well. We talk about how well the Cowboys apply themselves in the draft, but remember they rebuilt their O-line like a 2 or 3 year period because they hit on like every O-line pick, and people were upset about it. I remember you Cowboys fans were upset about it. I remember like, oh man, why are we drafting these guys? You didn't like the Travis Frederick pick, and I remember my take on the Travis Frederick pick was you guys just don't like it because it's not a name brand.
Yeah.
All right. It's the Hill Country. It was the Hill Country brand. It was the generic brand, and y'all didn't like it. But when you look up and you'd say, "Oh man, actually, this brand is just as good as the name brand." I don't know why I'm buying. Actually, it's a better value buying the generic HEB brand than buying this name brand. And that's all he was. He was the HEB brand. Turns out he was a hit, and then they hit on him. They hit on Tyler Smith first in 2011, then hit on Travis Frederick in 2013, and then hit on Zach Martin in 2014. Rebuilt the O-line in a 3-year, 4-year period. Boom, boom, boom. It's because they really kept hitting on those picks. And I think they might be in one of those stretches, guys. They really focus. Tyler Guyton looks like, for Tyler Smith pick, looks like that was a hit, right? A couple of years ago. In 2022, and then you look up and get Cooper Beebe and now Tyler Guyton in this draft. Looks like that's a hit as well. So you got your future left tackle, your future center, and you got Tyler Smith playing. He's playing left guard right now, whatever, I believe. I mean, you basically have. I mean, maybe you'll get one more because you got to try to look at replacing Zach Martin whenever he leaves. But I think the Cowboys just rebuilt the O-line, guys.
I think it did too. I mean, but you're going to have to keep
3-year stretch.
The reality is you have to keep doing it because Zach Martin's probably in one of his last.
They got to draft one more, so they got. But I think they're on a heater.
Yes,
they're on a heater when it comes to the O-line.
I mean, that's the thing is the Cowboys draft well. They do. I mean, the problem the Cowboys are in right now is that they drafted too well. and so they have to pay all their players. That's
no, it's not too well. You waited to the last possible second to sign all those guys. That's what happened.
But you were literally, you have 3 guys that are about to reset the market because you drafted 3 guys that are going to reset the market. So I'll give them.
One of them should have already been off the books and signed already.
I agree with you.
I
agree with you. I'm simply saying in the sense of that these are homegrown guys. These are not free agents that you brought in.
No doubt.
And that you already knew they were good. You picked them out.
That's not how they operate.
Yes, they drafted really well. I agree with you 100%. The way they've done business since is malpractice. But
no, you're right.
Drafting wise, they've done really well. And O-line, it seems to be their bread and butter. And it's going well. But I don't get why you can draft such a good O-line and then not get a running back behind it.
Can we talk about that though? I guess you're right. By the way, and the Cowboys still haven't really. The preseason haven't given us any real, clues as to what they're doing.
There's one big.
I will say this, Deuce. Can I just say this? Deuce Vaughn, I think looked good. I thought Deuce Vaughn looked really good. He's easily the most elusive back they got in the backfield. He had 19 yards. He had 34 yards on 5 rushes, 19 of those yards after contact. Had 12-yard run. I was like, Deuce looks pretty good.
Yeah.
I don't know what they're going to do at running back, but. I don't know if this current group is going to be it, then I think Deuce should get a look.
So who do you take out then? So we say Deuce is in, we say Zeke is in, we say Dowdle, we say no Malik Davis, no Royce Freeman. Those guys are out.
I'm just, like I said, I really, we're at the Argo principle right now. We're looking at the best bad idea.
I get it, and so that's the point. Is the problem with the Cowboys is you have 3 guys, and you're like, well, you could cut all of them really. Like, none of them have to be there, but you shouldn't know the difference between Zeke and Malik Davis isn't big enough to tell me which one you should cut. That's a problem. We're talking about which guy shouldn't be cut right now. And all 3 are all 5 are in the conversation. Look, they can still make a move. I don't see them trying to do anything really that big right now because of the issues that they're having with all the other contract talks. I know they're still looking at things. And, that's not how a front office works, that you spend 24 hours a day on one thing. They're looking, but, Deuce Vaughn looked okay, but your leading rusher was still Trey Lance. And I know it's a preseason game. We didn't get to see Dowdle or Zeke in this. We won't know what the Cowboys' running game is until Zeke either, does well enough or fails.
Yeah,
because that's really the key mark in not playing the preseason. I get it, but if he comes out in week 1 and averages 2.2 yards per carry, then you understand that experiment's dead and you're pretty much screwed for the rest of the season in that. And now you got to figure out what you're going to do. But if he comes out and averages 4.5, okay, we can piecemeal this together for a while. But if we're saying we're all in, if we're saying the Cowboys are trying to win it all, that's the question of you do have a really good O-line. You hit again.
They did.
You got this problem that so many NFL teams have. They can't get their offensive line, and you put together, as you just said, you basically reset your offensive line through the draft, which, I can tell you there's plenty of GMs in that league that wish they could do it better than they have when they miss on 1 or 2 of those guys, especially first-round picks, to do that and then not try at all, like not draft a running back in the, 4th round or try, like, those were the things that were disappointing. But at the same fact, for the Cowboys, you're hoping that O-line is just going to be so dominant that those guys can come through and at least do you well enough.
Yeah, the Cowboys' first preseason game, Rico Dowdle started, played a few minutes. Then Malik Davis took over. Davis played most of the first half. Royce Freeman and Deuce Vaughn were dealing with injuries. And then in this game, Davis took the first and the 4th drive. Then Freeman took the 2nd and the most of the 5th drive, and then Deuce Vaughn took the 3rd and the 6th. So you really haven't got. I think it's going to be Rico Dowdle and Ezekiel Elliott, but like I said, the other guys, I don't know if there's enough separation for any of those players specifically, but we'll see about the O-line. Real quick before we get to the other note here, Trey Lance looked good. 65% completion percentage. 151 yards passing, 1 passing touchdown. He did have a rushing touchdown, 36 yards rushing. He looked good. It's preseason. He's going up against backups and reserves, but Trey Lance did look like he was comfortable in that, and he had poise in the pocket for the Cowboys. So I'll give him that. Maybe we have seen improvement from Trey Lance. What does that mean? I have no idea. Maybe it ups his trade value. We were talking about that last week.
Yeah.
They're already the Minnesota Vikings already need a quarterback. They won't be the last team that needs a quarterback or a developmental quarterback, backup quarterback, emergency quarterback.
I think the Vikings did just bring in.
Did they pick up somebody?
I think they picked up Matt Corral. I think is who they picked up.
I think you're right about that. I think I did see. I didn't see who he went to, but I saw Matt Corral got picked up. I don't know. I didn't know
so they picked up Matt Corral, which is the guy that was on the Panthers. Went to the Panthers, but then got injured that rookie season. Then they drafted his replacement, Bryce Young, and then he was dealing with some mental health issues, I believe. Went to Washington, and it didn't work out there because mental health issues. And so hopefully he's feeling better now and figured some things out and go try and make a real run. But he was a top pick quarterback. He's one of those guys that, and he never really failed in the NFL either. He just never really got a shot.
Also, the Cowboys highlight from that game, Brandon Aubrey had a 66-yard field goal, which would have tied the record for the longest in NFL history if, of course, we weren't talking about the preseason. So Cowboys actually I think had some really good examples of young guys stepping up. Maurice LaFleur looked really good in the preseason too. So I like the way the Cowboys looked, especially on that O-line. I think, like I said, I think that was the highlight. Marshawn Nealon looked good. He looks good too.
And that's what the other players are saying and what you're hearing about him out of camp, about the skill set he has.
Yeah.
I think that's another one where even with the Sam Williams injury, and you assume they'll want him to come back next year too. That Marshawn Nealon, they could be trying to fast track into that DeMarcus Lawrence replacement for next season.
And strangely enough, it's like, I believe in that draft, what was that, 2014, where they drafted Zach Martin and DeMarcus Lawrence. Not saying Tyler Guyton is that, but they hit like 1 and 2. Yeah. And they hit 1, 2, and 3 here in this draft if Marshawn Nealon works out. So, Cowboys draft picks looks good. They really – Monty Smith did not make the trip or didn't play. He had some issue or something like that, I thought. So I didn't see much from Mozzie Smith, even though I was looking for it.
Which that would allergic reaction happened on a team bus.
Yes.
So I guess not. I was gonna say,
strange.
I mean, we also know that they did go out and pick up some defensive linemen too. So I
think they did.
There's that point of Mozzie Smith where I think they understand that this is another growing year for Mozzie Smith. And
they say they like what he looks like so far, and I think they're going to start. He's going to start because they got to see what they got out of him before they move on. But all right, enough of the Cowboys. Let's talk about the play that really wowed the NFL this preseason. So forever, everybody has been buzzing about the practice film of Patrick Mahomes throwing a behind-the-back pass, and he was doing it casually, like doing drills. Like a couple of years ago. And you were like, man, he's doing that casually. It looks like he can be really effective doing that. And then at one point, the Kansas City Chiefs released some footage of him doing it like during a team drill with the team in an actual play. And so for years, this was speculation that they're going to do this. So the first piece of audio, can we play this? This is Patrick Mahomes, I believe a couple of years ago, being asked by Peyton Manning about the play. Like, hey, on the Manning cast, like, hey, when are we going to see this play, man? When is it coming? All right, here's Patrick Mahomes giving his breakdown of like, hell no, at one point we're going to see this play, the behind-the-back pass by Patrick Mahomes. Here it is. This is from a couple of years ago.
You're a different quarterback than we were, mainly because you can throw accurate behind-the-back passes. That's why we saw the video. Now, listen, you've said for sure it's going to happen in a game. What are we waiting for? I mean, like a specific play call, a moment of desperation in the pocket. What's the deal?
We've actually had a couple of them planned for the games, but just all within the flow of the game, it just didn't happen. We've been working on it. It's taken a little bit. I have to get the confidence up. But if I don't do it before the end of my career, I don't think my dad's going to let me live it down. So I'm not at all people. So I'm for sure going to get it done at some point.
All right, so that's the Manning case. Like, I'm going to get it done at one point. And then earlier this year, he went on First Things First. And he was also asked about it again. I believe this is Nick Wright and the crew, but here is Patrick Mahomes.
Well, last time you were on the show, I said, hey, Patrick, is the behind-the-back pass on the horizon? And I trusted you because you said, yeah, don't give up on it. And it's been 21 games, and we still haven't seen it. So is that something that we're just untrustful, or did you lie to me, or what happened there?
I think it was we didn't play as well offensively enough for me to pull the behind the back pass off this last year. But it's no one else's fault than myself, because Coach Reed wants me to throw it behind the back more than anyone in the world, and so he deliberately puts in plays that I have the opportunity to throw the ball behind the back. So it's not a coaching thing. It's me not having that confidence to do it in the game, but one of these games, man, we got to do it. Like, there's been too much hype on it. We got to do it, and hopefully it's to Travis, because I feel like he's the best at judging that behind the back pass.
Love it. All right, this year it will happen.
There you go. He says we got to do it. He's like determined. Andy Reid is like putting in plays, is like suggesting, hey, bro, throw that behind the back pass, man. You know, it's right there. The opportunity's right there. So we get to the preseason week 2, and against the Detroit Lions, Patrick Mahomes, 3rd and 3, throws a behind the back pass to Travis Kelce to convert the first down. Yes, it happened this weekend. I'm sure it came across your timeline. So you would think, okay, that was brilliant. Andy Reid called a play specifically designed for the behind the back pass. That dude is just a genius. Not so fast, my friend. Not so fast. Patrick Mahomes, and remember, Patrick Mahomes did say it's got to come kind of naturally within the game. I can't force it. Listen to Patrick Mahomes' explanation of how the behind the back pass went down.
Yeah, I mean, long story short, Travis didn't run the route he was supposed to run, and then it was kind of a behind the back pass, kind of because I was mad. I was pissed off at Travis. He was supposed to run a flat route. I don't know if you can hear me on the broadcast. I'm yelling at him, and then he doesn't run it. So out of spite, I do it behind the back pass, but now it's going to be a highlight.
Oh, that's awesome, because you just improvised it. Is that what you're telling us? Is it just all improv?
100%. That's what I've been trying to say to everybody. It can't be planned. It's got to be just naturally happen, kind of in the groove of things. And so I actually forgot about it until halftime. Someone actually brought it up to me, and it wasn't like I planned that at all, or it wasn't a called play. It just kind of happened.
Wow. Hold up. You're telling me like Larry David, Curb Your Enthusiasm spite store? This dude had a spite pass, was a behind the back spite pass? Wow. I mean, come on, guys. That is amazing. He was upset. That was out of spite. He threw it out of spite. That is amazing. Patrick, how impressed are you with this? Is he a Seinfeld? I wish he was a Seinfeld fan, because he definitely, or even a Curb Your Enthusiasm fan, he definitely would have made a reference to the Spite Store or the Seinfeld episode where he tries to return a piece of clothing out of spite, the store would not take it.
I don't know. I don't know the last time you've talked to a quarterback about spite. Just in general,
as a motivation. But first of all, so it wasn't planned. But Andy Reid, we know, but based on his early interviews, we know Andy Reid probably put it in there saying, "All right, listen, this is going to be a great opportunity for it." And then, so let's hear from Travis Kelce. So he got thrown under the bus, said he didn't run the right route. So here's Travis Kelce's side of things, and listen to what he has to say about how it all went down.
It wasn't a play. No, it was a play. It's a first down. You know, he's got the voice thing, and so he kind of mumbled out the play. I couldn't hear it. I was walking up to the line. I was like trying to decipher what he was saying. Before I knew it, he snapped the ball, and and then I kind of saw him out of my peripheral run to the sideline. So I was trying to go help my guy out. By the time I looked over there, he was already in mid-form, like a photo on a sports card, throwing the ball to me. So it was just, I guess, right place at the right time.
Well done. So he's like, I can't even hear this dude. He's mumbling like Kermit the Frog. These guys are becoming a great comedy duo. They're hanging out a lot together. You know that. Yeah. Hanging out, him and Taylor Swift and wifey. So I got to tell you, I don't know if they're planning this, but their comedic timing and the way these guys are playing off each other, it is fantastic. It's great. It's some Abbott and Costello stuff right here, man.
The damning part for the rest of the league is if any other quarterback and like wide receiver and tight end did this, the coach would be like, on the bench now. What are you doing?
What are you doing? What are you doing?
If Patrick Mahomes does, we all go, yeah, that's just
celebrating.
The Chiefs.
We're celebrating. We're like, that's amazing. And now the rest of the league, you literally have to now think about this when you're in practice. You got to say, hey guys, just a heads up.
I can't wait.
Heads up, you might get the behind the back.
He's going to avoid a sack with a pump fake behind the back pump fake.
That's crazy. Okay, I know we got to get to break here, but just for historical reference, not the first time we have seen a behind the back pass in a football game. In 1961, college all-star game in Chicago. Sonny Jurgensen, Eagles quarterback Sonny Jurgensen, it is on film, had a beautiful behind-the-back pass to Pete Retzlaff that actually gained positive yardage at the time. So Sonny Jurgensen did it in the 60s. He just so you know, Patrick Mahomes was the first to do it in a big time game. That was actually a game that mattered too, throwing it out there. So we'll see. But that is a great story behind the back.
He said without some point in his career, how long until he does it in a Super Bowl? Like 5 more years, 6 more years?
I would say 3. Because he's so, think about it, Patrick. He's so comfortable throwing a behind the back pass. He did it out of spite. He was upset. It was like, man, you know what I mean? It's like, dude, you just did it out of spite. It's like, that was your spite pass. That means it's second nature to him. He's gonna do it in the game.
No,
he's gonna do it.
It reminds me
Super Bowl is coming in 3 years,
and it's a different. But like, there was a play for the Mavericks earlier this season where Kyrie Irving just crosses over and then hits this little floater, like half hook, half shot, to win a game on a buzzer beater over a center, and he does it, and everyone goes, "Where did you have that?" He goes, "Oh, I can just do that." Like, how do you have that shot? And for a buzzer beater, that's the one you plug. It's that kind of just skill level where the guy's like, "Oh, I can do anything."
Yeah, that's a great point. It's like, you try that in a game against live competition? He's like, yeah. I mean, he didn't run the right route. It was like they improvised it. That's how great their chemistry is. I can't say enough about that play. All right, we come back. We got behind the burnt orange curtain. We'll give you nuggets from the Texas scrimmage, their second scrimmage of training camp, right here on the Rodcast featuring Patrick Davis. I'm Lifetime Longhorn Rod Davis. Coming back on the Horn. All right, welcome back to the Rodcast. Time to get into some Texas football conversation. Texas had their second scrimmage of the offseason, so a lot of clarity coming after that second scrimmage for the coaching staff. The biggest story coming out of the second scrimmage was Jake Majors. Jake Majors basically held out of practice because of a left foot injury, ankle injury. Not sure. I think if they're specific on the reports, all they know is that he was held out of practice and he had a boot on that ankle, and it was out of precaution. From what I heard, it was not that he. All the reports are, shout out to our friends over at ontexasfootball.com. Shout out to our man Bobby Burton and CJ Vogel, who had the report that I saw. And so he's not expected to miss game time. So the first game versus Colorado State, but because of the rash of injuries that the Longhorns have dealt with at the running back position, they're being really cautious. And speaking of, so Jake Majors, that was, I think, the biggest story coming out of the scrimmage is that he was dealing with a left lower leg injury of some kind. I think so. I'm not sure if they said ankle or if it was foot. I think some people may have speculated either or, but still they want to be careful with them. So that led to a lot of movement on the offensive line. Hayden Connor and Cole Hudson at left guard got some run at left guard. Neto also got some first team reps there too. But it looks like with that first group, Connor Robertson also was in getting time at first team center because of the injury the slight injury you had to Jake Majors. So at least it's given them at least an opportunity, some moves and pieces around, cross-train some guys. So as a result of that, Hayden Connor shifted over to left guard, from left guard to the center position. He got first team reps with the offensive line. And also Connor Robertson got first team reps at center too, but they also were cross-training those guys at guard. So basically you got multiple guys now cross-training at center as well you should. And Neto, from what I heard, also got some reps at first team guard. So I think ultimately it's just going to give them more urgency and incentive to have a contingency plan at center. I'm sure they had one anyway, but now they'll want to make sure that's more of a solid. They have more clarity, and that's more of a rock solid contingency plan behind Jake Majors if something happens. So I think it's going to be good. But I'll say this about Jake Majors. I didn't realize this either. I mean, CB brought this up. You look at Jake Majors. He is right now on pace, if he starts every game, to break Colt McCoy's all-time starts record at Texas. Yeah. I know, crazy. I believe you go look at it. He's got somewhere around 42 or 43 starts right now as a player, and I believe Colt's at 52 or 53. Yeah, here it is. 53 starts for Colt. I think there are 41 starts. So 41 starts for Jake Majors, 53 for Colt. If Jake ends up starting every game this year, and knock on wood, hopefully he will, he'll break Colt's record, 53. That's wild. Shout out to my man CB for throwing it out there. I didn't even realize that, but it says a lot about how he's been a mainstay on offense. I think if you look at the entire offense, honestly the entire team, I think there's one player we've taken for granted over the last couple of years. Definitely Jake Majors. We just forget that we have a really reliable center and have had that reliable center for the last 4 years. And we just gotta look, and I'll say it's been reliable probably for the last 3 years because after his first year as a starter, but still, and they keep bringing in really good offensive linemen, upgrading talent at that position, and they can't take his spot or they can't slab him, which says a lot about his growth as a player. And I believe he's a preseason Remington award candidate right now on their watch list. So that was the biggest news about who actually stood out. The players that stood out. I've gotten mixed reviews about who won. The first scrimmage, it was clear defense won because defense forced turnovers. They had 3 interceptions. They had 2 forced fumbles on the goal line, so it was clear defense won because they forced a lot of turnovers. In this game, the offense was much more buttoned up. They took care of the football a lot better. I was told they were able to move the football, with some success in between the 20s, and they made some big plays with receivers. Matthew Golden, I was told, had a Moss-like reception on somebody. Moss, one of the DBs. Don't know which DBs that was. So I think the offense had a better day, but defense, from what I'm told, they're still creating a lot of pressure up front with their defensive line. And not saying the offensive line can't handle it, but I believe it's being implied by some of the reports. and I've told you guys this, there's a Johnny Nansen effect where the defense has some looks that offensive line. Think about these guys have been the offensive line before the 5 stars return. They've been seeing this Pete Kwiatkowski defense because of the continuity for a long time. So they know the pressure packages. You get to learn how the other phase operates when you go up against them so long, and you've been going up against each other for 2-3 years. And in that case, I think what's happening is, in addition to the upgrade on the edges, so the pressure is coming from a more athletic position instead of that interior D line, which is where the pressure came from last year. I think with that, you have more flexibility about how you can bring the pressure. And I think that Johnny Nansen, I told you, Johnny Nansen loves exotic looks. He loves exotic looks. So I believe they're probably showing this offensive line some looks they just haven't seen. A lot of games up front they haven't seen, twists and stunts up front they haven't seen. Probably a lot more, run blitzes on early downs. Get to the stop the run on your way to the quarterback philosophy. But if you go look at Johnny Nansen's time there at Arizona, their stunt percentage, and you go look at it, the stunt percentage was much higher than Texas. It was at a top 15 rate on passing downs, and their stunt percentage overall was much higher than Texas. And stunts are when you have twists up front, right? Twists in games up front with your defensive linemen. I bet now, because your edges are so athletic, I bet they're doing a lot of that up front. I bet I bet some of that's happening. Remember, we talked about this, and with Texas, they had issues with simulated pressure, right? A lot of that simulated pressure they had issues with. I think also you're probably getting more simulated pressures with Johnny Nansen. That's a blitz. That's something that looks like a blitz, smells like a blitz, feels like a blitz, talks like a blitz, but it ain't a blitz. A blitz is when you send at least 5 guys, you'll be sending fewer, but everything indicates it's a blitz, putting guys up, mugging the gaps, ghost fronts, radar fronts up front where everybody's in a 2-point stance. So it signals blitz, and the pass protection is then catered to that. Or the quarterback sets it, or the center sets the pass protection to protect from a blitz, but it's not, and then you can confuse the blocking scheme because they're set to block for a blitz when it isn't one, and then you have the numbers advantage on the back end. So you're getting, I bet they're getting funky looks, is what basically has come down to from Johnny Nansen, and that's why the pressure seems more constant and consistent. And I told you guys there will be a Nansen effect, and I believe my theory would be that's part of why the defense is getting so much pressure on the offense. Even Sark talks about this, that they can't step up in the pocket consistently because the defense is making it tough on them. One other thing, the running backs were bubble wrap. They were in green jerseys, and it was more like thud up for the running backs, because why wouldn't you? You got to bubble wrap those guys. I know it's unfair to the defense because you want to give those guys an accurate look and a simulation of what they're going to see in the game. You can't afford that right now if you're Texas. You can't afford to get a guy hurt. So green jerseys for the running backs, just like the QBs. Don't touch them. Don't touch them. Well, you can thud them. Don't bring them to the ground, and don't be aggressive with them. And I agree with it. It's probably, right now a little early to be protecting guys in camp, but you don't have any other choice if you're Texas. You don't have a choice. You can't afford another injury at that position. So, all right, so those are some of the highlights from the second scrimmage. Mixed reviews on the offense or defense one. I think that's a good place to be in your second scrimmage. You don't want to be where some phase overwhelming the other phase at the second scrimmage. It should be more balanced. Should be each side winning their fair share. It seems like that's what's happening. All right, we come back. We'll get into the topic for the big fat poll today, and we'll learn what the musically themed day of the week is. All of that and more right here on the Rodcast, featuring Patrick Davis on Lifetime Longhorn. Rod Davis coming back on the horn.
Back on the Rodcast on a Monday morning, and that means it's a smooth soul Monday, easing you back into the work week with the sounds of some smooth soul, getting you ready, getting you out of that weekend mode. But it is the last weekend before college football starts. Not a lot of games. I think there's 4 games on Saturday next week, but it is college football. So we'll be watching. Right. We will be watching next weekend. Get the last weekend of preseason as well coming up next week. Going to be a good time there. But yeah, let's get into the big fat poll of the day. Text line's open. 512-447-3776 is the text line number. And you can find us on X at the Horn ATX, where we'll get this posted up.
Patrick's big fat poll of the day on the Horn.
All right, big fat poll of the day today. Let's go back to a little Houston Texans talk today and look at an issue that the Texans had last season and is probably the main thing if you want to be concerned about anything about the Texans this year is that running game and the fact that they have in this game Dameon Pierce once again looked really not good in the few snaps he got at running back. Jawar Jordan, the guy they picked up in the 6th round in this draft, did not look good at all in his few snaps. You saw J.J. Taylor have a couple good runs. British Brooks, which is a really interesting story. Rod, do you know the British Brooks story at all?
I'm not sure if I'm familiar.
So British Brooks was a walk-on at North Carolina for 3 seasons. And then at the end of the 2021 season, he started to show off a lot. Got scholarship after the 2021 season. He's expected to be their lead back going into 2022, and then he tears a ligament in his knee, and he misses the entire 2022 season, and then came back in 2023, but then they had Amarian Hampton, who's a better running back, so he starts. British Brooks plays pretty well. He's 100 yards, and I think 2 touchdowns in his first game back with North Carolina, though, and so it was a big day for him, but he's an interesting guy that has no mileage on him, at least. You saw him come in and play at the end of the game and do all right. But those are not your main guys. We haven't seen Joe Mixon in preseason action. He is supposedly healthy now. He missed some time early, but he's a full go in practice now. He is just not in the preseason games. They don't need to have him in there. But this Texans team did not have a good running game. Bobby Slowick did not figure out how to get the running game going. And seeing that Dameon Pierce is not having any luck and Jawar Jordan is not having any luck with that first team, and no one's really able to run the ball very well in that first team, if it may be not just the backs, but somewhat of the scheme that Bobby Slowick is going to have to figure out. It's a Texans team that doesn't necessarily have a lot of great runners over the last 10 seasons. So we'll ask you, how many yards will the leading rusher for the Texans have this season? We assume it's Joe Mixon, but I'll leave it more open-ended. Just in case. But we'll say how many yards will the leading rusher for the Texans have this season, and we'll go 700, 800, 800, 900, 900 to 1,000, and 1,000 plus will be your options. Last year, if you're looking for the numbers, Devin Singletary had 898 yards from the ground, so just under 900 for Singletary. Dameon Pierce had 416 last season. And then I'll give you this little trivia question, Rod, see if you can figure this one out. In the last 10 seasons, the Texans have had 3,000-yard rushers.
In the last what seasons?
10 seasons.
Oh, yeah. 10 seasons.
Can you
include Arian Foster? Is he in that one?
Arian Foster is in 2014. That was his last big season was 2014.
So that does count.
So he does count, yeah.
Oh, that's good. That is good.
I mean, I would not have probably gotten these other two off the top of my head.
Yeah, I'm trying to think at which backs you had that were could have been that because your running game has been bad for a while now.
Yes, that's what I was saying. The last
under
10
Bill
years.
O'Brien, toward the end of Bill at the end of Bill O'Brien's tenure is basically what we're talking about.
Yeah, I think one of them. So I'll give you the years 2016 and 2019 were the 2 other years that they had.
Yeah, I think so. One of them. Okay, I'll give them to me because
Lamar Miller in 2016. And Carlos Hyde in 2019.
Carlos Hyde
were your 2,000-yard rushers, other than Arian Foster in 2014. So they do not have a long history. They're not have not been a power back team for a very long time. So we'll see. You expect coming from the Shanahan offense that he came from in San Francisco that they would run the ball a little bit more. They have not had any luck. But that's our question for today. How many yards will the leading rusher have for the Texans this season?
Yeah, I got some numbers on those, but you're right. You would think because of the Mike Shanahan offense that would be something that they would have more organic success with. But it
Yeah.
seems like they're gonna have to do things to force the issue with the running game because last year, although they had a lot of success in a lot of other areas, the run game did not get the boost that they thought it would. And maybe it's the O line, maybe it's the injuries on the O line will take care of that. We shall see. Joe Mixon was 1,000-yard back last year, though. Right. So if he stays healthy, I think Joe Mixon can get to 1,000. Barely. You got 17 games.
Yeah,
so
you do.
You know,
the big question was,
there.
again, we saw Jawar Johnson and Dameon Pierce that were running with the early squads.
Yeah,
they
Dameon
both
Pierce
averaged with Jawar Johnson at 2 yards per carry. Dameon Pierce had 1.3.
Yeah, Dameon Pierce ain't looking good right now.
I mean, those are bad numbers.
Yeah, I'll admit they've been talking Dameon Pierce up, and it seems like that's more hype than substance because he does not look great in that system. So yeah, all right, that's a good question for the Texans. That's one thing if you are looking at reasons to be concerned, how you could get regression from CJ Stroud from the Texans. It could be because of the running game, but the running game was bad last year.
Yeah.
They still were able to win the division and win the playoff game. So if the running game improves just a little bit, the Texans, man, the future looks really bright for that group. All right, good stuff there. We'll come back. We'll get back. I'll give you the numbers that I have on the topic of the Texans running game, which is the topic for the Big Fat Poll today. On the other side, we'll also hear from Peyton Manning about his top 5 quarterbacks, his top 5 favorite quarterbacks in the NFL. We'll hear from Cooper Kupp giving Jordan Whittington some props, and we'll discuss 2 Longhorns who stood out in week 2 of the NFL preseason. And also dropped into some NFL news notes and nuggets and get an update on the CeeDee Lamb contract negotiations. All of that and more right here when we return on the Rodcast featuring Patrick Davis. I'm lifetime Longhorn Rod Babers coming back on the Horn. To the Rodcast. It is a Smooth Soul Monday edition of the Rodcast. Thanks to my co-host, the Idealionaire, Patrick Davis. He's doing that for you, folks, because he understands that making the transition from a fun-filled, relaxing, stress-free weekend to being slapped in the face by Monday in the work week with traffic and meetings, it can be tough. It can be traumatic. So in order to make sure that you have a smooth transition and not a tough, rocky one, into the work week, he has a Smooth Soul Monday on Mondays for you to start out the work week. So appreciate Patrick with a Smooth Soul Monday, and that was especially smooth. This is a nice jam. What is this?
This is Curtis Mayfield.
Man, that's
song's called "So in Love."
Wow, I got to brush up on my Curtis Mayfield then. That's a good one right there. All right, always appreciate Patrick. Always also appreciate him hooking us up with the topic for the big fat poll of the day. And this is actually related to the Houston Texans. Patrick, give the folks the topic for the big fat poll of the day.
Big fat poll of the day. How many yards will the leading rusher for the Texans have this season?
Yeah, right now I think they will get 1,000-yard rusher, but I will admit, and you've talked about it, the running game for the Texans for the last 5 years has just been terrible. I mean, it's been one of the worst rushing attacks in all of the NFL. Here are the stats that I have. You have the Texans, here's their run game by their running back run game, if you will. So just what the running backs responsible for. They're 26th, if you go look at it, in 2023. They were 31st in 2022, 31st in 2021, and 31st overall in 2020. And if you look at overall there, I think you brought up the scheme and maybe the mentality for the Texans that also contributes to their poor running game. I remember I brought this stat up earlier. Bobby Slow, who comes from the Mick Shanahan coach tree, first year as a play caller, got to understand that. But the 49ers, who have one of the best running games in all of football, their early down run rate, all right, so early down runs, 49% of their early down runs for the 49ers were into loaded boxes. Loaded boxes means more defenders than you have blockers. So the 49ers run into loaded boxes, don't give a damn. Why? Because they'll still get yards. Because they got Trent Williams, they got the best running back in the game. You know, the Shanahan run scheme is taught by a Shanahan itself. That's their bread and butter, and they're uniquely, I think they're kind of uniquely built and constructed to be able to run successfully on early downs against stacked boxes. Most teams try to avoid that. The Houston Texans, similarly, last season, 48% early down runs, and they're running into loaded boxes 65% of the time. But San Francisco was number one on those runs. They were the best team in the NFL running on early downs into loaded boxes. The Texans were 28th. So they're trying to be like the 49ers, but they're not the 49ers, not in that aspect. So that's more the play caller, and I think Bobby Slowick being able to adjust to the Texans' talent and what they are. The scheme can only take you so far, and after that, you have to have your own cover version of the scheme. Right? It's like you do your cover of it. It ain't gonna be you can have the same lyrics, but you got to have a little different flow to it, a little different groove. You can't try to do your cover version exactly like the original. If you do, then it's probably going to be a bad cover. Got to put your spin on it. And that's what I think for Bobby Slowick, that's going to be this year, the challenge for him. He can't do that. But I mean, see the Texans, when their rank running into loaded boxes last year, 29th in yards per carry, 29th in success rate, 28th in EPA per rush. The key is we want to play against lighter boxes. That's why they can now have Tank Dell, they have Stephon Diggs and Nico Collins and Dalton Schultz. So now hopefully teams defending those weapons will have lighter boxes because they won't just stack the box and now also they're probably a little bit afraid of CJ Stroud. Now he can hurt you throwing the football downfield. So this season, I think the belief is they'll get lighter boxes because now they have proven that they are a threat throwing the football downfield, and now they have even more vertical threats. So that they hope that'll be a deterrent from teams stacking the box against their run game. So the run game should improve theoretically. This is all theory until it's put into practice. But as we can see in the preseason, it don't necessarily look that good, but it's a preseason and they don't have their starters in there, and it's very different. So there you go. But we'll see. That's the topic for the big fat poll today. My Patrick wants to know. Will the Texans basically who will be the lead? How many yards will lead the Texans in rushing? Right? Is that the question?
Yeah, the leader who will lead the Texans in rushing this season, or how many yards will the leading rusher for the Texans have this season? I mean,
I 1,000.
I don't think it's going to be. I don't
really.
No, I don't even think it'll be that bad. I also have a little bit of concern over Joe Mixon playing 17 games.
That is the biggest concern. The biggest concern to me is, do you have a running back that can at least play 15 to 16 games to get to 1,000? Yeah. That I'll agree. I'm not sure you have that.
So I think Joe Mixon will do okay when he goes, but I think they're going to have some really bad games running the ball this season. So I say you'll probably have 2 to 3 games where they just shut down the run and try and make CJ Stroud beat him, which I know seems backwards, but if you can only do one thing, then the one thing you can do is stop the run game. And, if CJ Stroud throws 2 incompletions, you may be able to get out of a series. So I think there could be points where teams just really focus on the run and just completely shut it down this season. And so I think that he'll get over 800. I think 900 is probably pretty safe if Mixon stays healthier. But I don't know. I let's just put it this way. I have no faith in that Bobby Slowick run game until he shows me a reason to. Because I don't think Dameon Pierce is as bad as he looks. I think that they're running a style that they're like, when you watch those games, there's not holes. It's not like he's not finding the hole. There isn't a hole.
Yeah, no, you're right about. I don't disagree with you at all. I think you're right. I think it's like I said. I just pointed out a little stat that gives you it's part his strategy, and then you're talking about the scheme.
Yes,
like it could just be his scheme overall. And by the way, like I say, he got to come up with his own cover version. We talk about this with Sean McVay all the time. Sean McVay is right off that Mick Shanahan coaching tree, but he has even surpassed Shanahan because he's already won the Super Bowl.
Yeah.
And the reason is because his cover version is very different than Shanahan's. He runs more 11 personnel than most teams in the league. So he's not hooked on running the power sets. Bobby Slowick runs more of those power sets, the 12 and the 21 personnel. But Sean McVay was like, nah, I like your scheme, but I don't like your presentation as much. I'm going to do my own thing. All right. But he does have the pre-snap motion rates are really high. And his play action pass rates, like Shanahan, are really high. And his compressed condensed sets. So he took the conceptual signatures he liked, but he's very different. Like they run more power, way more power than the Shanahan scheme runs. And power, obviously, the Shanahan scheme is the zone blocking scheme, which Bobby Slowick has adopted mostly. But Sean McVay said, now we're basically going to run as much power as we do zone, right? As much gap as we do zone. And that's very different. So you just got to have your own cover version of it. And I think that's what Miami's trying to figure out right now, too.
Yeah, I agree with you.
And McDaniels has done a good job because I think his emphasis has been, multiplicity is how Shano built his system. All these monsters of multiplicity you can move around the chessboard. Debo Samuel, Christian McCaffrey, Kittle, Juszczyk. They're all guys who can play multiple positions. With McDaniel, his emphasis is speed. Like, I'm just gonna have the fastest team in the NFL. Let's see if they can deal with that. That's their extreme, unique principle that sets them apart. And he's kind of been doubling down on that. So you just got to put your own. And I said, this is Bobby Slowick's year to put his own spin on it. But there's no doubt last year, here's the running game. 26th in yards per carry, 26th in EPA per rush, 29th in success rate, 18th in rate of runs to gain 10 or more yards, 27th in the rate of runs that failed to gain yardage, 31st in the rate of runs to result in a first down or a touchdown, 24th in yards before contact per rush, 29th in yards after contact per rush. Whichever way you're looking at it, it is a bad run game, period.
Yeah.
And it shouldn't be that bad considering all the talent.
No, and I mean, and the reality is you're hoping that he has added a lot more into the game, and they're just not showing it in preseason because why would you?
Yeah, like I said, I think just ultimately what will be they'll run into light boxes more just because teams will be defending Nico Collins, Stephon Diggs, and Tank Dell and Dalton Schultz. And if you have those guys on the field more, they'll lighten up those boxes. And when the Texans play against a light box, 5 yards per carry. That's 16th in NFL success rate, 36%, 19th EPA per rush, 19th. So they go from bad to average with a light box. And then now O-line health, hopefully just upgrade it in talent. Hopefully Bobby Slowick, strategic and schematic tweaks and adjustments. And then you go from average to above average.
Yeah.
And then you're talking about being able, because with that running game, you're not going to beat Kansas City, period. That's just
Yeah.
That run. No matter how good everything else gets, you ain't gonna be Kansas City with a run game like that.
Yeah.
You'll be too one-dimensional. Chris Jones just tee off on you all damn day long. You can't have that.
Exactly. Yeah. So that's because I think too that'll be the point is we'll see at points, does he just start throwing the ball to mix in more to create that running game, which isn't really a solution. It's a quick fix for it, but it's not a solution to your running game. So that'll be the question is by week 4 or 5 is, how many rushes versus how many routes is Mixon running.
Yep. I agree. No, good stuff there. Except that's I'm as a Texans fan, I'll admit that it's bad. There's no doubt about it. And it still looks bad, but it's the preseason. All right. Before we get into some of the NFL topics, we'll hear from Peyton Manning, his 5 favorite QBs in the NFL. We'll get a CeeDee Lamb update from NFL Network's Mike Garofalo talking about CeeDee Lamb. And we'll also talk about what I think is a pretty interesting topic. We'll dive into it in Rod's rant, but I got a ranking from On3 about they're basically doing high school rankings now, the best high schools in the country. So we'll talk about that and talk about why football is a religion in the state of Texas, and those rankings are another example of it. But first, let's get updated, let's get educated, let's get informed on all the top stories of the day with my man Patrick Davis and the Horn Headlines.
All right, your Horn Headlines brought to you by Top Gun Rentals and Lawn Equipment. In the MLB, the Astros won their series of the White Sox over the weekend with Hunter Brown and Framber Valdez both picking up wins. The top Astros prospect Shea Whitcomb made his MLB debut on Saturday, picking up 2 hits, filling in for an injured Alex Bregman. The Astros now start a rough stretch of schedule against the Red Sox tonight with no days off until September and facing all winning teams in their next 4 series. And the Rangers close out their series with the Twins, picking up an extra innings victory on Sunday. Adolis Garcia walked off the game with some good base running after an infield hit and error by Josh Young. The Rangers now move on to the series with the Pirates, likely pitching a bullpen game tonight. In the NFL, the Texans got a 28-10 win over the Giants, scoring first on a Jalen Petrie pick 6, and then adding a John Mechie receiving touchdown and 2 British Books rushing touchdowns. And the Cowboys beat the Raiders 27-12 with Trey Lance scoring both a passing and rushing touchdown, taking most of the snaps for the game. And that is your Horn Headlines.
All right. Thank you, Patrick, for the Horn Headlines. Appreciate those. All right. Let's dive into these NFL nuggets here. We talked some Texans, so let's talk some Cowboys, just so Cowboys fans don't feel left out. We have an update here on the CeeDee Lamb contract negotiation. Remember we told you guys that last week, apparently it came out from Clarence Hill, Forward Star Telegram. It came out that basically the Cowboys had not yet reached $33 million in their offer. We don't know what the number is, but they hadn't reached $33 million, which to me is crazy. They should have started there and then kind of worked their way up from there. But now we're hearing that the offer is right at $33 million. And Mike Garofalo of NFL Network says, actually, now that might not be enough. Here's Mike Garofalo.
Okay, well, let's keep this theme rolling then. Talk another top-tier wide receiver awaiting a contract extension in CeeDee Lamb. What's the latest there with the Cowboys?
So you saw reports that the Cowboys and CeeDee Lamb and his representation met to try to resolve this thing a couple of days ago. It did not happen. Now, you've seen the reported numbers that are out there about 33. I've seen higher than 33. I've seen lower than 33. My understanding is it's around 33. And for Lamb, that's still not good enough. The top of the market is 35 with Justin Jefferson. So he wants that to come up. And the structure, I am told via sources familiar with Lamb's thinking, needs to be worked on as well. Cash flow, guarantees, how that's going to be structured on the front half of the deal. So there's still a lot of work to be done here. And Lamb is represented by Torrey Dandy, an agent who knows this wide receiver market because he helped set the wide receiver. I mean, he's got a ton of receivers that he's done deals for over the last year, including A.J. Brown, who is right there below that tier that the Cowboys are trying to offer right now. So that one continues. That standoff continues. We'll see if there's any progress made in the near future.
All right, so they're at 33, around 33, and I don't know. There's right now belief, at least by Mike Garofalo, that that's not enough. That the Cowboys want to go to 35. This is something that I think Patrick speculated. It's like no, he wants to be the highest paid wide receiver. It matters to him. For some guys, it does matter, but he also pointed out there's other stuff in the deal that they're far apart on too. Other contract elements that they're far apart on. So, and I imagine guaranteed money and cash is probably a big part of that as well. So I don't know why the Cowboys are still right now acting as if they have some leverage here, but we shall see.
Yeah,
35 million seems, if you're at CD Lamb, for what he means to the Cowboys, Patrick, I'm not saying it's fair, but he means as much to the Cowboys as any receiver means to their team in the NFL, and that includes Justin Jefferson to the Vikings.
It does. I could believe too, and maybe it's off. Maybe he wants more of everything, but I believe there could be a conversation of you have to give us 2 out of 3. So we want signing bonus and guaranteed money, and it's 33, or it's 36, and we want money up front, or it's 36 and we want guarantees. But you can't give us a low ball on all 3.
Yeah.
One of those has to be better than one of those has to be big. And you're trying to go, we're like 33 was okay if there's money up front and guarantees. But if you basically want to give us 33 in 2 years guaranteed, and the back 2 you can cut us after 2 years, and you're not giving us money up front, so you're backloading 40 million, 40 million, 45 million in the last 2 years of the contract, but there you can get out of them and only pay us a little bit. That we understand what that contract actually is, Jerry. We also know how contracts work. So we understand that you're actually giving us a $70 million contract.
Pretty much.
And we don't want a $70 million contract. We want a $120 million contract. So you understand how far off that is. So the number 33, I think, is, yes, I'd like to be, if we're going to say that you're not going to give me the guarantee on the last year of the contract, or if you're not going to give me the money up front, then yeah, I want to be the highest paid receiver so that I get something out of this. But if you are willing to go actually take some of the other things, maybe I'll take a little bit less to make it make sense. But because the difference of 33 million in a year and 120 in guarantees and 35 million a year and 70 million in guarantees, I'm taking 33 all day long.
That's a huge difference.
You get what I'm saying? So I get where you can say they want more of all, but if the Cowboys are lowballing them all, then trade them. There is no middle ground on this anymore.
I'm with you. And I said a couple weeks ago, I wonder when the trade request by CD is going to happen.
Because it feels like they're not that far off on all of them. But again, I think if you're the Cowboys, you need 2 out of 3, and it doesn't feel like they're giving any out of 3.
I love your 2 out of 3 theory. I mean, that seems, if you're CD's people, that seems fair. Give me 2 out of them 3. At this point now in the negotiation, I would say he wants, if you're CD, I wouldn't give a damn about, honestly, the average annual salary. I'd just be trying to get the guaranteed and the cash.
But this is the thing. It's Jerry Jones and the Cowboys.
I know it matters to him.
Well, and Jerry Jones and the Cowboys too. You go, I'm probably not getting the cash up front. Most likely, that is the least likely one to get, because Jerry Jones has never been that guy. So if we say I could probably get more in this and be the highest paid wide receiver all time, and I can get a lot of it guaranteed, okay, now I can live off of 35 a year when it's guaranteed. But if you're not willing to guarantee me, I want 70 up front. I'm buying everything straight cash right now. Buy my new house, buy my new everything straight cash, and then we can talk about it. But I'm not I get where if you're trying to lowball all 3 of those, and they're not big lowballs. 33 is not a lowball offer, but it is if it's not guaranteed money, and it is if it's not money up front.
Yep, I totally agree with that. So we'll see where this goes, but that's the latest report, is that there are some things in the contract that the Cowboys and the CD Lamb don't agree on, but I think the biggest issue right now is the Cowboys offer is just too low. I think he wants top of the market money, and it's going to be hard to argue that he's not going to get it. So I just say this will go on into the season. Usually the Cowboys are all about, the deadlines make deals. So we shall see week 1 if CD Lamb's going to be a Dallas Cowboy. I will say that the Brandon Ayuk situation has still not been resolved. Deebo Samuel said that Brandon Ayuk's going to be a 49er. He said that on the podcast recently, that Brandon Ayuk will be a 49er and will be ready for game 1. Remember, Michael Parsons said the same thing about CD, that he has no doubt that CD will be in uniform for the Dallas Cowboys week 1. So
yeah, I know, and
maybe he knows something, maybe he doesn't.
And the reports are Brandon Ayuk has been at practice in 49ers
he's wearing 49er gear,
and he's there. He's on the sideline. He's not practicing yet, but he's there. He's now a hold in.
So they're farther along than CD and the Cowboys are.
Yes,
he's there wearing gear.
Yeah, he says you guys are getting close. There's a couple hangups. And I think a big difference is we've seen John Lynch come out and say there is urgency. We really do want to sign him. We're working on this. We want to keep him. And Jerry Jones just goes, he'll stay. It's a huge difference. There's a huge difference in saying we want him here and no, he'll be here.
He'll be here. He's got a good thing. He knows when he's got it good. That's basically kind of what Jerry is implying.
Why would anybody want to leave the Cowboys?
I think there should be a trade request. I think there's no doubt in my mind that would scare the Cowboys enough to go, all right, we got to do something. Let's do it. And I think that's where we're going. I think a trade request is what's going to end. And he'll be a Cowboy. I'm not saying he's going to end up getting traded, but I think the trade request at times, just like with Brandon Ayuk, I think, that would infuse enough urgency into the negotiation. All right, let's jump into another topic here. Let's hear from Cooper Kupp. We had this Cooper Kupp sound. Jordan Whittington, we'll get into the Cooper Kupp sound here in just a second. But I went and looked at the stats. Hard to find preseason stats, but I found some from CBS Sports. So a pretty reliable source. So according to CBS Sports, his preseason stats, Jordan Whittington leads all receivers in the preseason in receptions. He leads all receivers in the preseason, not just rookies, all receivers in receptions. He is fourth in receiving yards, and he also leads all receivers in targets in the preseason through his first 2 games. Now, for some reason, like, that preseason doesn't matter. If you understand Jay Witt's journey, you understand, oh man, that's huge. That actually does matter a lot. And he had if you go look at it, he had 9 targets in week 1, 8 targets in week 2. I don't know if we'll see Jordan Whittington much in the rest of the preseason. I think they're gonna sit him down.
Yeah,
he's got 12 receptions, 17 targets, and leads the NFL in both of those categories. Like I said, he's top 5 in yards according to CBS Sports too.
Yeah, I can believe. I mean, I think you're going to start to sit more and more. Like I think week 3 of preseason is going to be the sit everybody, give them 2 weeks off before we get into before we get in the season. And I think Jay Witt is close enough to being that starter now that I can't imagine they're going to go, let's put it back. And if they do, I don't think that's necessarily the worst thing either. I think that's more along the lines of we know he's a developmental project and we really want things for him, but we need to get him as much playing time as we can because once we get to the season, he may not get he may not get a lot of targets. So we'd like to work on him a little bit more in game form because once we get there, we know we're going mostly Puka and Cooper. And so he's going to be kind of he'll be pushed back down to maybe a target or 2 in a game, if that. So maybe they want to get him some more reps while they can. We know that when we listened to that sound from their OC last week, that basically was it depends on other wide receivers and it depends on, I think there's maybe something to be said that too. They want to have these other quarterbacks work out with them because they want to have a receiver they trust for these other quarterbacks. Yeah, there could be a number of reasons why they're leaving Jay Wood out there. The good part is if you want to talk about a guy who has no problem playing in the preseason and going out there and showing what he does, I think Jay Wood's that guy. Yeah, Jay Wood. No, he's having the time of his life. Like all the sound of audio of him, he's so grateful and thankful. But yeah, the history has been when they find the Rams, because they've done this a few times now, when they find the diamond in the rough, when they find that gem at the wide receiver position, they usually shut him down. And like we said, preseason has changed a little bit, but Cooper Kupp, when they found him, and he had 10 targets, I believe, in his first 2 weeks in the preseason. 10 targets total, 8 receptions, 105 yards, and 1 touchdown. And after weeks 1 and 2, they shut him down. He didn't play the rest of the preseason. Puka Nacua didn't take that long. Puka Nacua had 5 targets, 3 receptions in week 1 for over 50 yards and a touchdown, and he didn't play for the rest of the preseason after week 1. For Jordan Whittington, we shall see, but the indicator would be, or at least based on recent history, that they shut those guys down, as Patrick mentioned, because they expect them to play. It was like, no. Our guys that are going to play for us, actually, we expect to be heavy in the rotation. Our starters for, we're shutting them down so they can be fresh for the start of the season. So if they shut him down, that's a really good indicator that, no, they want him to contribute right away. If he plays, it's not a bad thing at all. Just means they do see him as a guy that
it will probably need a little bit more refining, a little bit more development within their system before they put it out there. But if they shut him down, recent history would suggest they think he's ready. Like they think he is a guy that can help them immediately in their wide receiving core. And I think that is the case. Based on everything I've heard and based on what the offensive coordinator said, what Sean McVay said, they believe he's going to help them immediately. And so I think they'll shut him down. I think he's done. He's been great. Like I said, he leads the NFL in targets and receptions in the preseason. So congrats to my man, Jay Witt. Can we hear from Cooper Kupp? We got this audio. Here's Cooper Kupp. He was talking about Jay Witt in their during their second preseason game. Here is what the receiver had to say about the young rookie.
About one of those guys, Jordan Whittington. Cooper had a huge game last week. Exciting to see him out here again. What do you like about him? What are you seeing from the young man?
Yeah, man, he competes. You saw him come out in OTAs, and we heard so many good things about him. As soon as we drafted him, it was crazy the number of people that reached out, and we're just like, man, Jordan Whittington, I know him from so-and-so. He's an awesome guy. You're going to love him. And seeing him just grow and show up to training camp ready to go, his growth in a very short amount of time has been extremely impressive.
You know, I'm going to put, Cooper, those two questions together here because I don't know if you saw it here. Nice run, and the Rams backed up now onto their side of the field. Kamada Vidal, the rookie, second to the NCAA in rushing a year ago with that carry. Cooper, Whittington was mic'd up last week, and, you know, he had 6, he had 74. He had a great game. And at one point, he's overheard saying, man, I love this receiver room. Everybody supports everybody. And it was almost like this, wow, like, I love that I am loved. This is such a cool place to work. Did you hear that?
I did hear that, and that's great. That's cool to hear because I think we do have that. That's kind of the culture we want to set. We want to be, a place where guys that are going to come be a part of the LA Rams organization, that you've got people around you that are lifting you up to be the best player that you can be. At the end of the day, that's what we want. We want guys to be at the very best. We're trying to be the best organization we can be. And so for him to say that, there's confirmation on just, guys that are coming up that don't know anyone, for him to feel that, it's a pretty cool thing.
All right, there you go. Like I said, it seems like the players really like him. I remember when Cooper Kupp said after the first mini camp, he said, this young man is special. And he also remarked that he was getting reps with the first team already. It's like in mini camp, that's crazy. I think we're starting to see why that was the case. Okay, a couple other things I want to get to. We'll save it for the other side. We'll get into Peyton Manning's top 5. He gave his top 5. I don't know if he said he didn't want to rank them, but his top 5 favorite quarterbacks. We'll discuss that. We'll also get into the Xavier Worthy conversation as well. He had his kind of big showcase performance in week 2 of the preseason, scored his first touchdown of the preseason. We'll talk a little bit about that. And I want to get to this ranking. There's a On3 now officially has high school rankings. It will tell you why football is a religion. It's more proof that football is a religion in this state, more so than any other. So we'll dive into those topics and more right here on the Rodcast featuring Patrick Davis on Lifetime Longhorn. Rod Babers coming back on the horn. All right, welcome back to the Rodcast. Got a couple of things I want to get into here. Let's talk about this Peyton Manning list of favorite quarterbacks. He said he didn't want to really rank them because he wasn't into it, but he's, I believe, talking to Stephen A. Smith, and they're doing just a sit down interview, and it's in front of a live audience, and so he starts getting into his top quarterbacks, and I think he starts off with what he believes is his number one QB. He doesn't, like I said, doesn't want to get in the rankings, but he starts off with Patrick Mahomes. So, but then after that, I think people were a little surprised at the quarterbacks that he listed as his top 5 favorite quarterbacks. And you can't say Peyton Manning don't know quarterbacks. So here is one of the GOATs, Peyton Manning, breaking down his top 5. After this, we'll come back and discuss.
Right, and quarterbacks need to be coached hard, and Andy Reid coaches Patrick Mahomes hard, and that's good for Patrick. That's bad for NFL defenses, right? So that's number one. Patrick Mahomes number one. God, rankings are so hard. You get in so much trouble. You get mad about that. How about you have to rank? Just maybe the games. Look, I'm a big fan of Joe Burrow. Right? I'm glad to see him back healthy. Right? I like the way he carries himself. I like his demeanor out there. He doesn't sweat. He doesn't flinch. Right? He's just kind of calm and cool the whole time. This Justin Herbert is as talented as anybody. He can throw it around. He can throw it around. Harbaugh, like I said, the Broncos division is going to be tough. I mean, Lamar Jackson does things that just don't seem possible with the football in his hand. He makes throws, he runs, and he's smart about, he protects himself too, right? I mean, look, I never could run, so I never had that problem, right? But, the thing we were talking about earlier, quarterbacks, that like to run, you still got to find a way to get out of bounds or get down and be there on the next play, right? If you get hurt, I mean, look, defenses, if the quarterback, gets hurt, they're probably going to win that game. Right. So I love the way Lamar carries himself. I think he'll have a great year this year. One more. I mean, this, like I said, Josh Allen is total stuff. Tough. I saw him this summer. I mean, he is so motivated to bring the championship to Buffalo.
All right. So it not a ranking, but his favorite 5 quarterbacks. Mahomes. I'm glad he easily. He didn't want to rank him, but he was like, no. Mahomes is, yeah. Y'all know he's number 1, right? Even though the players didn't vote him number 1, they voted, oh man, crazy, Tyreek Hill, and they voted Lamar Jackson, I believe, ahead of him. So he wasn't even the number 1 quarterback. But he did mention Lamar Jackson. He had Joe Burrow, but I think the one after Patrick Mahomes was Joe Burrow. Did mention Lamar Jackson. He's a Justin Herbert fan. All right, so all the Justin Herbert fans out there who believe he doesn't get enough props, they're going to love that. And then Josh Allen gets some love, top 5. You agree or disagree? Peyton Manning's top 5, so what are you going to say? But did he leave anybody out in terms of his top 5, best 5, or his favorite 5?
No, I mean, I think that's an okay top 5. There was nothing crazy about it. I don't necessarily have Herbert in my top 5, but I think that's
that's probably the controversial one.
But again, I think everybody has this thing where you look at Herbert and you're like, we know he's better than what this Chargers team is, and you just at some point figure it's going to happen. And now with Harbaugh, and you get out of what that team was, where it just was kind of in a cycle that wasn't working, he could be. That's really where you sit. Herbert has always been that guy that could be a top 5 quarterback very easily. He just hasn't done it yet.
Yeah.
And so, I mean, and being a homer, CJ Stroud is a guy that I would put above Herbert always, but that you could say he's got 1 year under him. We also know that Peyton Manning played for the Colts, so he probably doesn't want to give the Houston Texans a lot of credit. So he may not pick him there.
Yeah. I can say why not. He didn't put CJ Stroud in there, but I'm with you. I think you could make a case, but yeah. His top 5 is solid. Herbert's the controversial one. I probably would. That's the one you could debate. Whether Herbert should be on that list.
No, Herbert would be the one, and especially because I think he said him 3rd. You said him 3rd or 4th.
Yeah, he said him before. He said him before Josh Allen. I know that.
Yeah,
and I think he was like 3rd or 4th on that list. So. Just like I said, if I'm about to say Jim Harbaugh going there, I'll give you a stat actually and what the facts with the stats about the improvement already. We're just seeing the improvement that Patrick wants to see from the Texans in the running game in the preseason. Chargers fans actually have seen it. in the preseason with the Chargers running game.
I will say this about too with Manning in these rankings too. When you see a lot of this, is that you have to. I like a lot of these guys. He's probably known Herbert since he was what, like 16, going to the Manning Passing Academy and stuff like that.
Yeah, he probably that's a
So
good point.
he probably has a different relationship with a lot of these wide receivers, where he may be like, I really like this guy because I've known him for a very long time, and I thought he had a lot of potential, and I was right, and he's done well, and he hasn't quite got where he needs to be. So I could believe that he has guys like that are they just know him for a very long time.
Remember, I gave you the quarterback value against the spread. We did that a couple of weeks ago based on Vegas. I think it was Action Network. So they had Patrick Mahomes as their top guy. So Patrick Mahomes, and they had Lamar Jackson. And Patrick Mahomes was worth 6.5 points, by the way. So he's worth a touchdown. Lamar Jackson worth 5.5 points. Joe Burrow worth 5.5. And they had Josh Allen worth 5. So they had 4 of his 5, but they had CJ Stroud, remember, in their 5. They had CJ Stroud as, worth 5 too. I forget where they had Justin Herbert. I have to go back and check it. But just throwing out the top 5, it's no doubt. Patrick Mahomes we'll get into the behind the back pass for those who haven't heard about it and didn't see it on your timeline. We'll get into his behind the back pass versus the Lions this weekend, but Patrick Mahomes is far and away. He's on a different level than everybody else, and he might be, except with this behind the back pass stuff, we may be about to take it to a whole nother stratosphere. Here's a Patrick Mahomes stat just before we move on here and talk Texas high school football a little bit. Patrick Mahomes, he started 96 games. The Chiefs have only lost 3 of them by more than 1 score. 3 of 96. 3 of, I guess I should say that for what the facts for the stats. And if you include the playoffs, let's include the playoffs, it's 4 of 114. So he does have that. So at his worst, basically 4 of 114 games, the game's been out of reach. They've been beaten by more than 1 score. That's it. Wow. Out of those games, only 4 they've lost by more than 1 score. So you're always in the game with him. That's kind of my point with Patrick. I've never seen a quarterback where you're always in the game.
Yeah.
Like you're literally, it doesn't matter if you're down by double digits. I've given you guys the numbers, when he's down by double. Here's the crazy part about it. And I kept this stat too, because some of these stats, they're so mind blowing. You're like, I got to keep this because this doesn't make sense. Mahomes' win percentage in games where his team was losing by double digits at some point is 200 points higher than any quarterback in NFL history. And he is 5-2 by my record in playoff games where his team was down by double digits. And 3 of those are Super Bowls. 3 of those 5 wins are Super Bowls, damn it, where he was down by double digits. And I was already celebrating like, oh, my Shadow's about to get a Super Bowl. Yes, it's going to be awesome. And no, it's dreadful. The manner in which you keep losing because it's just hard to beat that dude. So, yeah, there is no doubt. I don't know if there's a bigger gap between the best in their sport and the rest in their sport.
Yeah.
Than Patrick Mahomes. It's not in basketball right now. It's not in baseball. Well, is it? I don't know if it's in baseball either.
I mean, if Shohei was pitching,
Shohei's your guy,
but he's not pitching this season, so I can't. If
So
he was like in the Cy Young race and the MVP race, then yeah. He's the guy.
Then
but,
he would be the guy.
Yeah.
Shohei would be the closest. Yeah, you're right. I guess it's Shohei. The guy that can play both.
But he's been out because of the shoulder injury. He can't even play in the field right now. So
it's freaky. Yeah. Okay. Let's talk Texas high school football for a second. I saw On3 has a new system that ranks all the programs around the country. I don't know how far they go. I looked at the top 50. I'm not going to go that deep into high school football. I looked at like the top 50, and one thing stood out. There's no doubt something stood out. And what stood out was you start seeing how many Texas teams, or these are national high school football rankings, and how many Texas teams there are compared to some of the other football states, right? So California, Texas, and Florida and Georgia are pretty much your football states. Those are the top 4 football states, and actually Georgia has surpassed California at this point. It's really Texas, Florida, and Georgia more so than California. So I counted the football programs in the top 50. Georgia had 23rd, 25th, 33rd, 42nd, 44th, 47th, and 41st. All right, which is pretty good. So they had 7 on the board in the top 50. Florida had 9, 19, 20, and 46. So they had 4. California had 1, 5, 12, 18, and 34. Modern Day, I believe, is the top program in the country. And yes, they're number 1. They're from California. And St. John Bosco is number 5. That also is out of California. So they got 1, 5. So they got some really good football programs. They got 1, 5, 12, 18, and 34. So they had 5 programs in the top 50. I actually kind of stopped counting for Texas because I'm not joking. I started writing them down so I can keep up with them. So Texas has Duncanville, DeSoto, South Lake Carroll. That's in the top 5. That's 2, 3, and 4. North Shore is number 6. Atascocita is number 8. Lido is 13. Denton Guyer is 14. Longview 17. Westlake 18. Katy 24. Allen 28. Summer Creek 29. North Crowley 30. Prosper 32. Vandergrift, shout out, at 40. C.E. King at 43. Cedar Hill at 45. Rockwall at 48, Dickinson at 49. I'll count right now because I realized I was like, oh, this is crazy. You got other, so no. Texas has 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10, 11, 12, 13, 14, 15 schools. I count. Actually, I think I'm off. Yeah, I think I missed the line. So 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10, 11, 12, 13, 14, 15, 16, 17, 18, 19 schools. 19 schools in the top 50. Georgia's got 7. Florida's got 4. California's got 5. Texas had 19 schools in the top 50. Like, that is crazy. Like that, so when somebody tells you football is a religion in this state, when you got damn near 20 of the top 50 programs based on these rankings here in the state of Texas, ranked nationally, and nobody else is even exceeding 7, it tells you that it's a religion here, folks. It's also an economic engine here. I mean, look at the stadiums they build, these big, magnificent kind of cathedrals to football that they build in Texas. They don't have those any place else. Nobody builds stadiums, high school football stadiums that are as beautiful and as large capacity wise as it has, honestly, as sophisticated and as professional. Remember the Green Bay Packers came down for that Super Bowl in Dallas, and they had to practice at a high school. I forget what high school it was. And then they said it was better than their practice facilities. It's like, this is as good as our practice facilities. And we're like, yeah, it's Texas, man. It's the way we do it. And it's, like I said, that is, but when I saw that, my mind was blown. Like, I couldn't believe Texas had that many more schools ranked in the top 50 programs, high school football programs in the country than every other state. That's different, man. And somebody, like one of these, there's like a district in Houston, I believe it's 23-6A. You have North Shore, Atascocita, Summer Creek, and C.E. King. They're all ranked in the top 50 and are all in the same district. North Shore and Atascocita are in the top 10. Summer Creek's in the top is 29th. They're all in the same district. They're all in the same district. There's another district like that in Dallas. They call it the District of Doom. It's the one with, they have Duncanville and DeSoto in that same district, and they call that District of Doom. And Duncanville and DeSoto are second and third in the country based on these rankings. They're the second and third best team in the country. They're in the same district.
That's crazy.
So that matchup, whenever they play each other, not only is a rivalry in the district, it'll basically be the matchup between 2 of the 3 best football programs in the country based on this on 3 ranking.
That's got to be annoying. Wow. It's got to be annoying when you're the second best team in your division and the third best in the country. Like, the third best team in the country, second in our division.
Right? That's crazy. No, I'm looking at this. I mean, that district in Houston, it got to suck to be in that division. Like C.E. King, yeah, man, it's just wild. Like I said, Summer Creek's in that division. Galena Park, North Shore. I mean, you could be a decent team and just get mollywopped in that district by those teams. All right, there you go. But it does show you that. And I haven't looked at how many of these teams are in the DFW area. I've been obsessed with doing the research about the most fertile recruiting grounds in the country in regards to metro areas, the most fertile metro areas for football recruiting in the country. And based on my research, DFW is second in the last 5 years, I should say, in producing NFL prospects. In terms of that metro areas producing NFL prospects, they are behind Atlanta. Atlanta's number 1, DFW's number 2. Houston actually also still cracks the top 5. So that's why I say that Houston district, and then most of these schools that are ranked are Dallas and Houston. I would say Central Texas is probably third because you got Westlake in there. You got Vandergrift in there. Shout out to Lake Travis is 82nd on this list, so they were in the top 100. They were 82nd on the list. Sorry, you Lake Travis folks. All right, there you go. We come back. We'll get into what the facts, what the stats on the other side, right here on that. Actually, but stats right there. But we'll get to that coming up right here on the Rodcast, featuring Patrick Davis on Lifetime Longhorn Rod Babies. Coming back on the horn. All right, welcome back to What the Facts, What the Stats here. I told you I'd give you some stats on the Chargers run game, just the preseason, but the Chargers playing hardball, bully ball now, are averaging a preseason NFL high 2.3 yards before contact per carry. Last year, they were 28th in 2023 at 0.9 yards rush yards before contact per carry. So Harbaugh ball's already working. You know, they use their tight ends a lot. They're going to run downhill, power run game. Everybody knows what Harbaugh ball's about. It's bully ball, essentially. So they're playing some good bully ball there now. And add that with Peyton Manning saying Justin Herbert's one of his favorite 5 quarterbacks to watch. And throw on top of that, you know, Jim Harbaugh knows how to coach quarterbacks. I don't know. Could be a year. Breakout year for Justin Herbert.
It could be. And I mean, you still say that defense has some players.
Oh, yeah. They stacked that D.
So,
and yeah, their defense, I've always liked their players. Staley, their coach couldn't, Brandon Staley just couldn't maximize it. He was a defensive guy too. Where is Staley now? Forget about where Staley is.
Brandon Staley went.
Yeah. Because I liked him as a defensive coordinator, but as a head coach, I'll admit he just was not.
No,
not great.
He did not do great, and Kellen Moore didn't do great there last season either.
Oh, you're right. He was like the coach of the Chargers. It just wasn't. It just wasn't good.
Oh, I think he's over there with the 49ers now.
Oh, that's right.
He's
like
an
a
assistant
consultant or
head
something.
coach is what his title is. Assistant head coach.
Okay, Shano, good for you then, bringing them in. I like that. All right, another factoid here, and what the facts, what the stats. How about this one? This comes from our friends at Kansas City. It's how you know Xavier Worthy is going to be one of Patrick Mahomes' favorite targets. And he caught a touchdown, but not from Patrick Mahomes. I think he caught 2 receptions for 40 yards from Patrick Mahomes. He had a 22-yard touchdown from Carson Wentz, had 4 receptions, 73 yards, 1 touchdown overall. You go look at the receiving involvement in Patrick Mahomes' drop back so far this preseason. 18 preseason dropbacks. Xavier Worthy on the field running routes for 16 of those dropbacks. That's a good sign. That's a real good sign. Travis Kelce is 15. It's a good sign. Rashee Rice is the only one with more routes ran and during Mahomes dropbacks, and that was 17. And he got more targets, 6 targets compared to Worthy's 4 targets. But I'm telling you, they're going to feature Xavier Worthy. The way it's looking, he's going to be featured.
Well, especially with Hollywood Brown having the injury now too.
Yep, totally agree.
That opens it up. There's really Rashee Rice is the only other guy on that team that you feel had a secure wide receiver job, other than Hollywood Brown. So it feels like they're going to try and utilize Xavier all they can.
Yep, no doubt. Another factoid here. I got a couple of more for you. How about this one? Just getting into it. It says here, Dameon Pierce yards gained on his 8 preseason carries. Have you looked at this? -1, 0, 1, 1, 1, 2, 2, and 3.
So bad.
It's so bad.
And that's Jordan is not very good either. And that's their rookie they drafted, the 6th round pick, just is not doing anything in that offense either. And it isn't until they start to get down to that, when they're playing second team, third team, and all of a sudden, and then they break some on the outside more. But yeah, that run game, I'm telling you, it does not look good right now. Hopefully he's got new kinks and all this other stuff he wants to show in there. He just doesn't want to show it in preseason. That is my hope.
Yeah, I'm with you on that. Real quick, the quarterbacks, the first round quarterbacks from 2024 draft, I would say most of them have looked pretty good except for Drake May. Right? Even Bo Nix has actually looked pretty good. JJ McCarthy, of course, had season-ending surgery, but he looked good in the little time that we saw. He was actually averaging higher yards per attempt than any other rookie quarterback, 11.1 through week 2, and that including Jaden Daniels, though, looked good for the little bit that we saw of him this past week. Caleb Williams looks spectacular. I mean, he is making plays outside the structure of the offense, improvising, extending plays. I think he's going to be he's going to be sensational, even as a rookie. And I'll admit, Bo Nix looks good. They're not throwing the football downfield a lot, but Bo Nix looks pretty good right now. We'll go. Listen, he was in the preseason so far. He's 23 of 30, 2 passing touchdowns. He did have 1 taken away because of a penalty, but 121 passer rating. Bo Nix looks pretty good too so far. Like I said, and Penix looks so good. Raheem Morris said to shut him down. He said, "No, we've seen enough. We shut him down. Yeah. He's done." He's like, "Well, he's your backup." He's like, "No, we shut him down. We've seen enough." And so Drake May is the only one to me has not really shown promise yet.
Yeah, that Patriots offense in general looks garbage.
It's horrible. God,
it's so and once again, like the Texans will run back. No quarterback is having success really in that Patriots offense. Like Bailey Zappi looks okay in it, but that's about as good as you're getting. By the way, Alex Van Pelt, their offensive coordinator in in New England right now.
Ooh, I don't even know how
He
much
came
I
over
know
from
about him.
Cleveland. He was Cleveland's
Okay.
OC the last few years.
All right, so it's the first. Okay, good. Okay, well, yeah, I said I don't know much about, but Cleveland's offense has been pretty potent, but they've had injuries too. So we'll see. All right, there you go. So that's some what the facts, what the stats there. We'll talk more about those rookie quarterbacks tomorrow. I'm probably going to do a little bit of deep dive on the rookies and how they've played so far. But in the meantime, we got to come back and we'll get into some of the other big stories. Cowboys preseason nuggets, also Texans preseason nuggets. We'll hear from CJ Stroud as well. We'll also hear about the play that wowed football fans across America when Patrick Mahomes went behind the back. We'll give you the backstory on the behind the back pass coming up next right here on the Rodcast featuring Patrick Davis on Lifetime Longhorn. Rod Davis coming back on the horn. Welcome back to the Rodcast. It is a Smooth Soul Monday edition of the Rodcast. That's when my co-host, the Idealionaire, Patrick Davis, comes up with all the musically themed days of the week. But the purpose of a Smooth Soul Monday is to make the transition from a stress-free, fun-filled weekend to the really hectic, stressful work week. Try to make that a smooth transition. Usually Mondays will slap you in the face with meetings and traffic. It can be a bit traumatic. And my man Patrick wants to make sure that he eases you into the work week with a Smooth Soul Monday. So we appreciate all of his efforts. We also appreciate him coming up with the topic for the big fat poll of the day. And it is Texans related for you Texans fans out there. Patrick, give the folks the topic for the big fat poll of the day.
Big fat poll of the day today. How many yards will the leading rusher for the Texans have this season? We gave you the different projections of 700, 800, 800 and 900, 900 to 1,000 or 1,000 plus up there on X. Right now, 1,000 plus is leading the way with 39% of the vote, 35% of the vote for 800 to 900, and then 900 to 1,000, 17%, and then finally, if you do not believe, it's going to be 700 to 800. That is coming in fourth.
Yeah, I'm at 1,000. So I think they'll have 1,000-yard rush. 17 games gives you time, but you made a good point. The biggest concern would be, do you have someone who's going to stay healthy the majority of the season, the bowl coverage, so that they can become 1,000-yard rusher? That would be Joe Mixon. He is the prime candidate to be that guy. If he rushes for half the season and then gets hurt, and that could end up, I think, throwing a wrench in this. But assuming that doesn't happen, knock on wood, I think Joe Mixon gets to 1,000 yards. I do. Because the Texans are going to adjust they're going to adjust the running game this season, and you haven't seen this over in the preseason. Don't think you will, but I think the strategy is going to change a lot in terms of running into lighter boxes or personnel wise. That your formation is going to take defenders out of the box to defend all those weapons you're going to have in the passing game. Nico Collins, Tank Dell, Dalton Schultz, Stephon Diggs, and now a CJ Stroud, who also has the fear factor with defensive coordinators because they respect him now. They're going to back those guys up off the line. And I think I would rather the Texans run the football, wouldn't you? Wouldn't you rather them hand it off? Like I would go into the game. Oh, okay. You know what? I'm going to give you the run. You can have it. You can have it. You can have the light box all day, every day. Take it. I'd rather that all day than get CJ Stroud in the rhythm and him throwing to those wide receivers. Because that to me, they're an average rushing team, even running into a light box. I gave you those numbers, earlier. They're like 16th and 15th and 19th in yards per attempt, EPA per rush, and success rate running into light boxes when they have more blockers than defenders. Let them run into a light box. They're not dominant when they run into a light box.
Yeah.
Give them the light box. I'd rather have that than that top 5 young QB throwing to a top 5 wide receiving core.
No, and I mean, just look at, and then you get put in those positions of, you throw it on first down and incompletion, run it on second down, and you get a yard. And now it's third and long. And those are the problems that you have if you just consistently get in third and longs where they can drop back and do things to you and just not let you get anything over the top, not let anything pass the sticks.
Yeah.
And just kill you and get you off the field. You got to have both parts of the game. And, I think they'll be okay with it, but yeah, it's this preseason that has been the glaring one thing for the Texans that seems like it's going to be a problem.
I will say this though about CJ Stroud and him end up in those, because they did end up in a lot of third and longs last season, third and really longs. He tied for the NFL lead in completions that converted third and 10+ yards to gain. That's how freaky that dude is. Well, and so to your point, they did end up in that situation a lot, just like you talked about, and that dude would still bail him out. It's crazy.
It is.
That's how good he is.
But that's what he said.
But you can't count on that.
And we're in the conversation now with the Texans of where with the Cowboys when you get critical, that you're like, I don't care if you win 12 games now. Like, that's great, but you're supposed to be winning playoff games, and that's when these are going to become really big problems if you don't have a running game.
Yep. No, I totally agree. But yeah, and you're right about the Texans. You ain't gonna beat Kansas City, which we'll talk about in a second. You ain't beating Kansas City with the running game you got. That's what it comes down to. And so everybody in the AFC, you at least you have the team. Not the AFC, the NFL, I should say, but definitely the AFC. You got the team you got to measure up against. Are you good enough to beat Kansas City? And then go down the checklist of why not, and build and construct your team accordingly. All right, for the Texans though, I'm with you. Running games at the top of that list of concerns and reasons that'll keep you from ultimately being able to usurp the Kansas City Chiefs. All right, we're coming back after these horn headlines. We'll dive into Texans and Cowboys, news, notes, and nuggets from the preseason, things that we like from week 2 of the preseason, and the behind the back pass. We'll give you the background on the behind the back pass that wowed NFL fans over the weekend from Patrick Mahomes. We'll go behind the burnt orange curtain next segment, and we'll talk about the Texas scrimmage. The Texas having their second scrimmage of training camp. We'll give you all of the highlights and the nuggets that we got from all of our insiders, our friends over at On Texas Football, about Texas football's latest scrimmage. So we'll get into that too. So we got a lot going on this hour. But first, let's get updated. Let's get educated. Let's get informed on all the top stories of the day with my man Patrick Davis and the Horn Headlines.
All right, your Horn headlines brought to you by Top Gun Rentals and Lawn Equipment. In the MLB, the Astros won their series with the White Sox over the weekend, with Hunter Brown and Framber Valdez both picking up wins. A top Astros prospect, Shea Whitcomb, made his MLB debut on Saturday, picking up 2 hits, filling in for an injured Alex Bregman. The Astros now start a rough stretch of schedule against the Red Sox tonight with no days off until September and facing all winning teams in their next 4 series. And the Rangers close out their series with the Twins picking up an extra innings win on Sunday. Adolis Garcia walked off the game with some good base running after an infield hit and error by Josh Young. The Rangers now move on to the series with the Pirates likely pitching a bullpen game tonight. In the NFL, the Texans got a 28-10 win over the Giants, scoring first on a Jalen Petrie pick 6 and then adding a John Mechie receiving TD and 2 British Brooks rushing touchdowns. And the Cowboys beat the Raiders 27-12 with Trey Lance scoring both the passing and rushing touchdown, taking most of the snaps for the game at quarterback. And that is your Horn headlines.
All right, there you go. Thank you very much, Patrick, for the Horn headlines. All right, let's talk about the Texans first, and we'll make our way to the Cowboys. Texans in their preseason game, I thought there were a couple of really promising elements from that game. And number one, we'll start in the secondary. Derek Stingley and Jalen Petrie both got interceptions. The Texans actually had 5 turnovers they forced in that game, 3 of those in the fourth quarter on the Giants on their final 3 drives. But you saw a really nice interception from Derek Stingley. And I've been on this bandwagon for a little while, talking about Derek Stingley. I had a rant, maybe a couple of months ago, about Derek Stingley and the way that he finished last season. And at the end of last season, that he was playing like an all-pro. Second half of last season, the light went off for him. And not a lot of people, were paying attention because the storyline was obviously CJ Stroud and D'Amico Ryans. So they deserved all the credit. Will Anderson, the 2 rookies that stood out. And so that I get the storyline. But Derek Stingley, he led all cornerbacks and what Next Gen calls ball hawk rate last season. Which tracks whether a defender makes a play on the ball. Remember, I said that's what I need my DBs to do. I need you to make plays on the football. All right, you're gonna get beat. Everybody does. Can you make plays on the ball? And that's what he did last season, especially toward the end of it. Here's the stat that I had from, like I said, my rant earlier this month about Derek Stingley. You go look at it from weeks 11 through 18, so basically second half of the season. He was the leader in interceptions and pass deflections over the second half of last year. He had 13 PBUs and 5 interceptions. And remember, he had been dealing with injuries. That was one of the healthiest stretches that he had as a player. I think the light finally went off for him. And nobody really, as a corner, had more productivity than he did in their last 8 games. So I'm just throwing it out. And I think he's picking up right where he left off last season. And last season, and remember, they trusted him so much last season late, they let him shadow Amari Cooper in the playoffs and shadow Zay Flowers. So they're basically like, you take the best receiver on the opposing team. You're playing that good. And that if he picks up where he left off, he's going to be an all-pro. Like, I'm not joking. If he plays like he did from weeks 11 and on last season, he's going to be an all-pro. He was one of the top 3 to 4 best corners, maybe DBs in the league. I'm not joking. I'll give you the numbers. The numbers don't lie.
Yeah, I mean, and that's going to be the question: is can the rest of those guys on that secondary not allow them to just let Stingley be thrown away from? Where even though they're shadowing him, and that's your best player, the rest of the guys can get picked apart. It's going to be a problem. But as long as you can get guys that are serviceable everywhere else, you got those project guys that you signed in the offseason. You get a little bit better over on that other side and let Stingley do what he does. I think you're 100% on. He could be an all-pro for sure.
Yeah, you got was it C.J. Henderson and Okuda, and basically Kamari Lassiter, the rookie, is one of the 3 possibilities.
Yeah,
that could end up starting opposite Stingley. And you're right, that's important because basically, I think if Stingley picks up where he left off, it'll take 6 weeks into the season where they'll stop throwing to him. It's ain't worth it. But I like what they're doing at the nickel position too, because they put Jalen Petrie back at nickel, which is where it's probably his more natural position. That's where he won Defensive Player of the Year when he was playing in the Big 12. He got a pick 6. I always say playing that nickel, guys, it is a position where you got to rely mostly on instinct. Everything happens so fast when you're that close to the football. It's got to be muscle memory. It's got to be second nature. If you're trying to process, you're already behind. You're already going to be a step behind or a step slow. I remember talking to my man Quandre Diggs about this because he played safety and corner and nickel in the league. And he always said, I'd rather play nickel because I'm in the action. He said, I don't even have time to think. He said, I have time to think at safety and oftentimes get bored and it'll dull his senses, if you will. Because he's such an instinctive player. You put him at safety. Now, he's a good football investigator, probably made more plays at safety than he did at nickel, but he wanted to be a part of the action. He's kind of an adrenaline junkie, if you will. And that's kind of what happens at nickel. At one play, you could be blitzing. Next play, taking on a pulling offensive lineman. Next play, setting the edge. Next play, you're covering the number one receiver in the slot. Next play, you're covering a tight end. Next play, you're dropping back in the zone coverage. You just never know what you're going to be doing from down to down. It's rarely the same thing over and over again. And I think for a guy like Jalen Petrie, he's a decent football investigator at safety, but you can tell his instincts are so refined that he can rely on those instincts to put him in the right position at slot. And everything happens so fast there that his instincts kick in and he makes more plays just off instinct alone rather than him being an investigator, processing the clues pre and post snap. So that moving him to nickel, I think it's going to pay huge dividends. It already is. He's making already more plays than he did last year. And at safety, you don't need somebody who is, because he's a ball hawk too. He loves going after the football. And for him, I think at times forcing him to play safety and be the last line of defense, it just like with Quandre, you would dull his senses and you make him a less impactful version of himself as a player, because he is best when he is in the action. Just insert him into the action. At safety, you come late to the party. That's by definition a lot of times, unless they roll you down into the box. Now you can put a safety in a nickel-like position a lot of the times, but put him at nickel. I think ultimately for him, now he could be in a conversation where he could be considered a guy that can get off-season accolades or post-season accolades, I should say, Pro Bowl, stuff like that, because I think that's his more natural fit. So I love those 2 moves in the secondary, and we know the Texans are getting a little bit of a better pass rush. He's got deeper on the D-line. That was one of the emphasis for D'Amico Ryan and Nick Caserio in the offseason. So that was good. Also on offense, John Mechie looked pretty good. They don't need John Mechie, but that would be a hell of a luxury to have him work out too. They've invested a lot in John Mechie, and he's actually overcame a lot as a player too. Also, the offensive line is starting to look good. Remember, this was the most injured offensive line in arguably in NFL history, at least modern NFL history, with what they dealt with. Do we have this cut of CJ Stroud talking about the protection of the O-line? He was really complimentary of this group because nobody knows more of how much of a mass unit they were last year than CJ Stroud. Houston set a new record in adjusted games lost last season on the offensive line. They had 82.1 adjusted games lost on the offensive line. That was the most since 2001 in the NFL. A lot of injuries. It's kind of a cascading effect of injuries on that O-line. Here's CJ talking about how now with them being healthy, they're doing a great job. And against the Giants, who have stockpiled some pretty good pass rushers, they didn't touch CJ.
Yeah, they did a really good job of just, giving me time. And I know that, they got my back thick and thin. So, it's just more than just ball. It's just a trust factor that I have with those guys. And that's a great D-line over there. Dexter Lawrence and Brian Burns and Kayvon, all are great players. So, they have their hands full, but I think we didn't give up any sacks today. And we only played our starters in the first quarter. So, for our second guys to go in there and do well too, that just shows the work they've been putting in.
All right, it's good stuff there for CJ Stroud about the Texans O-line. And by the way, that also could help this running game improve. It's the same thing about Texas. We talk about Texas and the running back depth being a question. They can make that a moot conversation if the O-line just dominates and they're able to, make holes and move other human beings against their will and impose their will on the opponent. All right, let's talk about the Cowboys. Speaking of line play, the Cowboys did it again. I think the Cowboys have rebuilt their O-line. in like a 3-year stretch. They did this in the early 2010s when they drafted Tyron Smith in 2011, and then they drafted Travis Frederick, I believe, in 2013, and then they drafted Zach Martin in 2014 and rebuilt the whole O-line basically in a 4-year span from 11 to 14. They rebuilt the whole thing. And what'd you get? Zach Martin, Hall of Famer. Tyron Smith, Hall of Famer. Is Travis Frederick a Hall of Famer? No, but Pro Bowler. So you drafted 2 Hall of Famers and a Pro Bowler in that time span. I'm not saying that that's what this group is, because Zach Martin's going to be a Hall of Famer and Tyron Smith probably is going to be a Hall of Famer too. In my opinion, I think they'll be in that conversation at least. And you just rebuilt the O-line, it looks like, in the last 3 years. I think they're going to have to get a draft replacement for Zach Martin, but Tyler Guyton and Cooper Beebe look like they're going to be pretty damn good. It looks like that group's going to work out for you. I'll give you a stat about Tyler Guyton. How about this? He's the highest graded offensive tackle from the 2024 class after 2 preseason games by Pro Football Focus. And out of all offensive tackles that have played in the preseason, he ranks 9th. That's pretty damn good for a rookie. So it looks like he's going to work out. He looks really good and comfortable there. And Cooper Beebe, he's only going to get better. He just started playing center. So his first time playing center at an elite level, and he looked good. So Cooper Beebe's only going to get better, and I liked him at guard anyway. But the Cowboys think he's their center of the future, so you got him, and then you already got Tyler Smith on the guard. So is Tyler Smith playing left guard or right guard? I can't remember. I think he's playing left guard.
I believe
so that would be your
yeah.
whole left side of your offensive line right now, right? Done. And now you got to try to find a replacement for Zach Martin on the right side whenever he hangs it up. But the Cowboys, when they focus in on O-line like that, like they did in the early 2010s, and they get on a heater, man, they really do some impressive work. And then, by the way, I would take that back. They drafted Tyler Biadasz. I forgot when that was. But that was around the time they drafted right? That was around the time they drafted Tyler Smith too. Tyler Biadasz came before that, like a little bit before that.
Yeah, he came a couple seasons because he just hit
a couple seasons before. So they got their center then too. I didn't think about that. They didn't love him, obviously, because they didn't re-sign him. But they rebuilt their O-line in my point is like a 4 or 5 year span in the draft. And I think they're in the process of doing it now. I think they're going to draft a Zach Martin replacement maybe in the next couple of years. And then the O-line's good. Dak's O-line is set now. Running back, that would be a different issue altogether for the Cowboys. I still don't know what they're doing at running back, and I don't think we have any clues based on the reps in the preseason as to who's going to ascend. It looks like it's going to be a Zeke and Rico Dowdle show. I will admit I like Deuce Vaughn. He did look good. 34 yards, 5 rushes, but 19 of those yards came after contact. He looked elusive, had a 12-yard run. I don't know. I think maybe Deuce showed enough that he could be someone considered to be a depth piece in the running back room. I don't know. I like that, though. I like that Deuce actually showed some promise in the preseason game. Russ Freeman averaged 4.6 yards per carry. That's not bad either. Trey Lance really, though, looked comfortable and showed poise in the pocket. It's the preseason. I get it. But maybe he showed enough to entice a team to think about trading for him. 65% completion percentage, 151 yards passing, 1 passing touchdown, 1 rushing touchdown, 36 yards rushing. And Jerry said they didn't even open him up, that they have some plays they could have let him really weaponize his running ability, and they just decided, no, we're good with Trey working from the pocket. So Trey Lance looked good. It was against backups, but he looked good. And then you had also you had a pick 6. So 5th interception for the Cowboys in that Mike Zimmer defense. Pass rush wasn't great, but the defense once again looked good. Yeah, you're going up against a really probably frustrating and a subpar offense overall with the Raiders, but that defense forcing turnovers, probably got to learn how to get a little bit more pressure. But I do like the way the Mike Zimmer defense is shaping up. I thought it would still end up being a top defense in the league. I think that's going to be the case. But those are some. Oh, and can't forget about Brandon Aubrey. 66-yard field goal would have tied the record for the longest field goal in NFL history, except it's the preseason. But that also is a good sign. It's a good weapon for the Cowboys to have a guy with a leg like that. That's a he's got a heck of a leg, 66-yard field goal. So there are some really promising aspects to the Cowboys week 2 preseason performance versus the Raiders. All right, let's get to this Patrick Mahomes piece really quickly. So for years, I think this is going on 3 years or something like this now. We've been there's been a lot of talk. There has been a lot of hype, almost this mythology growing about Patrick Mahomes and the behind the back pass. It was first shown in just some practice film of him doing it in individual quarterback drills. And then I believe it was ratcheted up a notch. The hype was when the Chiefs showed him doing it in practice in a play scenario, in team drill with the team, but not against competition. And then they showed it recently, this training camp, they showed him doing it in team against a defense, like against a scout team defense. So this hype has just continued to grow. And this weekend, we saw it. 3rd and 3 against the Lions. Of course, it's against the Lions. Travis Kelce, and we knew it was going to be Travis Kelce. How could it not be? All right, you talk about maybe one of the greatest bromances in the history of football between Patrick Mahomes and Travis Kelce, and he did it. A behind-the-back pass, executed to perfection, converted to a first down. It was beautiful. But first, in order for us to truly be able to appreciate it, you got to do the history. We got to get the background on the behind the back pass. So the first time somebody kind of drilled him on it was actually Peyton Manning, because Peyton Manning being a quarterback, we talk about Peyton Manning and his top quarterbacks, and Patrick Mahomes is top of his list. He on the Manning cast, this is a couple of years ago, they asked Patrick Mahomes about it, like, hey man, we've been hearing all this hype about it, we've been seeing all this hype about the behind the back pass. Are you going to actually do it? Here is Patrick Mahomes on the Manning cast.
You're a different quarterback than we were, mainly because you can throw accurate behind-the-back passes. That's why we saw the video. Now, listen, you've said for sure it's going to happen in a game. What are we waiting for? I mean, like a specific play call, a moment of desperation in the pocket? What's the deal?
You know, we've actually had a couple of them planned for the games, but just then the flow of the game, it just didn't happen. We've been working on it. It's taken a little bit. I have to get the confidence up. But if I don't do it before the end of my career, I don't think my dad's going to let me live it down. So I'm not out of all people. So I'm for sure going to get it done at some point.
All right. So he's telling the Mannings, we're going to get it done. And then I believe on First Things First earlier this year, Nick Wright's a big Patrick Mahomes fan, big Kansas City fan. He was asked about it again. And here's Patrick Mahomes once again insisting, it's going to happen.
Well, last time you were on the show, I said, hey, Patrick, is the behind the back pass on the horizon? And I trusted you because you said, yeah, don't give up on it. And it's been 21 games and we still haven't seen it. So is that something that we're just untrustful, or did you lie to me, or what happened there?
I think it was we didn't play as well offensively enough for me to pull the behind the back pass off this last year, but it's no one else's fault than myself, because Coach Reed wants me to throw it behind the back more than anyone in the world, and so he deliberately puts in plays that I have the opportunity to throw the ball behind the back. So it's not a coaching thing. It's me not having that confidence to do it in the game, but one of these games, man, we got to do it. Like, there's been too much hype on it. We got to do it, and hopefully it's to Travis, because I feel like he's the best at judging that behind the back pass.
Love it. All right, this year it will happen.
All right, so it did happen. Only in the preseason, it did happen. But see, he's implying there that Andy Reid keeps calling plays, suggesting, hey, this would be a nice opportunity for it. But Patrick Mahomes, he hadn't done it yet until the preseason. Now, it didn't go down the way we all thought it went down. You thought, okay, 3rd and 3, Andy Reid called the play, and it was specifically a play designed for him to execute the behind-the-back pass. Not the case, ladies and gentlemen. Not the case at all.
Yeah, I mean, long story short, Travis didn't run the route he was supposed to run, and then it was kind of a behind-the-back pass, kind of because I was mad. I was pissed off at Travis. He was supposed to run a flat route. I don't know if you can hear me on the broadcast. I'm yelling at him, and then he doesn't run it. So out of spite, I do a behind-the-back pass, but now it's going to be a highlight.
Oh, that's awesome because you just improvised it. Is that what you're telling us? Is it just all improv?
100%. That's what I've been trying to say to everybody. It can't be planned. It's got to be just naturally happen, kind of in the groove of things. And so I actually forgot about it until halftime. Someone actually brought it up to me, and it wasn't like I planned that at all, or it wasn't a called play. It just kind of happened.
Wow. You mean like Larry David and Curb Your Enthusiasm with the spite store? This dude had his spite pass is a behind the back pass to show his receiver target that, hey man, you ran the wrong route, you imbecile, you idiot. So he basically threw a behind the back pass out of spite. Amazing. I mean, this dude, it just keeps getting better. That's amazing. So it was improvised, and not only improvised, Travis Kelce ran the wrong route. Well, Travis Kelce has a different perspective on actually how it all went down. So let's hear Travis Kelce's breakdown of the behind the back pass.
It wasn't a play. No, it was a play. It was a first down. You know, he's got the voice thing, and so he kind of mumbled out the play. I couldn't hear it. I was walking up to the line. I was like trying to decipher what he was saying. Before I knew it, he snapped the ball, and and then I kind of saw him out of my peripheral run to the sideline. So I was trying to go help my guy out. By the time I looked over there, he was already in mid-form, like a photo on a sports card, throwing the ball to me. So it was just, I guess, right place at the right time.
That is great. That is awesome. Wow. Out of spite. Yeah, I love how he makes fun of him. I gotta tell you, this comedic duo thing working out with him, I'm kind of down with this Abbott and Costello routine they got going on here. Working off one another, a little tension between the two. This is good. This is good. Hanging out a lot together. The chemistry is on point.
It ain't good for the rest of the league, is it?
Oh man, no, it's not good at all.
That is a two-time Super Bowl champions joking around about how they just did a pass that no one else can pull off. And they still picked up the first down. Because that's the deal. If he did it and it didn't work, but he was like, oh, we had a blown up play and we picked up the first down because it did a pass that no one else could ever make.
I know. It worked. And it, like you said, he ran the wrong route. And this dude did it because he thought it was the most effective means to execute the play. Not that the play was meant for him to do the behind the back pass. No, he just thought, oh, actually, instead of me just tossing it, actually, this is a better way of doing it. And I'm going to do it out of spite. You ran a wrong route. Wow. The NFL should be afraid, be very afraid of the connection, the chemistry between Patrick Mahomes and Travis Kelce. I will say this, though. It is not the first behind the back pass on record in a big time game. Shout out to Sonny Jurgensen. That's right. Eagles quarterback Sonny Jurgensen. You can go look it up. There's actually video footage. August 4th, 1961, college all-star game in Chicago. He throws a behind the back pass to Pete Retzlaff. And the guy actually converts a first down with it. Gets a sizable gain off a behind the back pass from Sonny Jurgensen. So not the first, but definitely in the modern era, the most hyped. And is this going to become a thing? Hell no, it won't become a thing because Pat is right. If anybody else does it, they get benched. It's a disaster. This is stuff that Josh Allen wishes he could do, but he can't do. Nobody can do it because Patrick Mahomes is a special kind of beast. All right, we come back. We'll go behind the burnt orange curtain. We'll talk some Texas football. We'll give you all of the news, notes, and nuggets from the second scrimmage for the Longhorns, what stood out. There's an injury report that we got to get you guys caught up on. All of that and more right here on the Rodcast featuring Patrick Davis. I'm lifetime Longhorn Rod Davis coming back on the Horn. Hey, what's up, folks? Lifetime Longhorn Rod Babers here. Let me tell you about Dr. Greg Eckert and his fantastic team. I owe them a huge debt of gratitude. You guys know this because my dental health and dental hygiene have never been better thanks to Dr. Eckert and his team. My first time I went there was for a routine checkup and just a routine cleaning, and they did a great job. So thorough, in fact, they found out my wisdom teeth were growing in sideways, and they let me know that I was on the verge of a potential disaster, a dental disaster, because all of my wisdom teeth were growing in sideways and it wasn't going to end well. So they worked quickly. They got the procedure scheduled. They made sure I was comfortable with the entire process, made sure I was educated, informed about everything that was going on, had the procedure done. I was back at work within a couple of days, and thanks to Dr. Eckert and his team, my dental health and dental hygiene have ever been better. Now, maybe and hopefully for you, it's not as serious as having all your wisdom teeth removed. Hopefully for you, it's as simple as a checkup or a cleaning or any general dentistry, teeth whitening, dentures, porcelain crowns, but even veneers or dental implants or full mouth reconstruction or root canal therapy or having teeth extraction like I had to. It doesn't really matter. You're in great hands no matter what it is, whatever it takes to make sure you're getting the best quality dental care available. That's what Dr. Eckert and his team are all about. And right now, because of the technological advances that Dr. Eckert and his team are always actually committed to, they can give you a brand new smile in just one day. No time spent without teeth. You'll get temporary fixtures until they complete your permanent smile, and you're going to smile again with confidence and eat freely without pain or discomfort. We're talking about a lifelike permanent solution. So if you've been told your teeth need to be replaced and you have to have dentures or you already have dentures, don't freak out. It's okay. Call Dr. Eckert today. Learn about this complimentary consultation and its revolutionary alternative to dentures. You got nothing to lose but so much to gain, because a confident smile can truly change your life. And Dr. Eckert wants to change your life for the better. So give him a call, 512-345-3166. That's 512-345-3166. Or visit dreckert.com, DRUECKERT.com. All right, let's get into some Texas football conversation here and talk about the second scrimmage the Longhorns had earlier this past weekend, I should say. And the first big headline coming out of the scrimmage from great sources over at On Texas Football, man, CJ Vogel and also Bobby Burton were on this. I believe first they reported that Jake Majors was held out of the scrimmage due to an ankle injury. I believe that most of it was described as precautionary, but he did have a boot on and was not available to play in the scrimmage. But there are no reports about this being serious, and he's expected to start the first game of the season. And yeah, Jake Majors, shout out to my man CB, because CB hit me to it and I didn't know it. Jake Majors, if he does indeed continue this season as the starting center, which he will, and as long as no injuries disrupt that, he'll start 12 games and hopefully SEC title game, hopefully, college football playoff game or a couple. So he'll actually surpass Cole McCoy in career starts at Texas. 53 is Cole McCoy's record, which is unbelievable. And so he'll be, he's at 41 now. So just he'll tie it in the regular if he starts every game in the regular season and going into the playoffs and going into hopefully an SEC title game, he would break that record. So I think if you could ask me, who's the player that Longhorn fans have taken for granted probably the last 2-3 years, it'd be Jake Majors. I mean, a starting center, and he's been stable and consistent and getting better every year, something Texas fans just haven't really had to worry about. And they have upgraded the talent pool in that room every year. Pancake Factory and Kyle Flood's focus on stockpiling big humans, but they have not been able to take Jake Majors' job. That's a good sign of a player's growth. I talk about that with Barron Sorrell, too. Look at the defensive end spot. They've been adding talent to that room. When they add high-level NFL caliber talent to a room, yet it doesn't push a guy out of his starting position, says a lot about the growth of that player. All right, guys getting slapped around them, but that guy remains steady. He's getting better, and that's basically what that talent infusion is pushing him to do. And I think that's the case for Jake Majors. So I think it's got to go and play on Sundays. He is a Remington Award preseason award candidate as well for the best center in the country. So that's the big news, but I think it's precautionary. I wouldn't freak out about it. Some of the other notes and by the way, because of that, since we're talking about the offensive line, they've actually been shuffling around a lot of pieces, cross-training guys on the O-line. So with Majors being held out, having the boot, they did move some pieces around. They put Hayden Connor shifted over from left guard and worked at center with the first team offensive line. Connor Robertson also got some first team reps at center too. And essentially they're cross training these guys. Cole Hudson took the bulk of the first team reps in Connor's usual spot at left guard. So they got two guys that are going to be cross training at guard and at center. So this will, in my opinion, it'll cement the whatever the contingency plan is going to be. If something, knock on wood, happens to Jake Majors, this I think it's a good thing because they'll have a plan in place between Cole Hudson and Hayden Connor and Connor Robertson. They'll have a really, I think, rock solid contingency plan in place as a result of this. Okay, let's get into some of the other nuggets. Did hear once again that Silas Bowling was making plays. Throw it out there once again, and I think if you're starting to look at who you believe are going to be project the starting wide receivers, I mean, if they had to ask me right now who I think of the starting wide receivers are going to be for Texas, hard not to go with Bond because Bond just fits what Sark wants, right? That's his type. He wants a speed demon. I was reading the other day that Isaiah Bond had, I believe, 18 plays last season where he reached at least 20 miles per hour as a player, like he was clocked by Pro Football Focus. And the only college football player with more was Xavier Worthy. So Bond just kind of fits what Sark wants to do. But man, and then I think there's Jonte Cook, who has the highest upside for the guys who have been here on campus and been with Quinn the longest and have the best chemistry. But from what I heard in the scrimmage, DeAndre Moore and Matthew Golden, DeAndre Moore probably more something. They call him kind of the Jay Witt replacement, kind of a low budget Jay Witt. I don't know how you want to say that. Lunch pail Jay Witt, however you want to call it. The coaches like him. He's the first guy out at practice. They like that about him. He's very professional. He actually considered Jay Witt to be his mentor. So the coaches may look at him in terms of the meritocracy element and think that he's earned that spot. But you got Michigan game 2, and you going on the road in the Big House versus arguably a top 5 defense in the country, best cornerback in college football versus a defensive coordinator that's got NFL experience. You really want a wide receiver that ain't played in a big game in that game to start for you? I think that's what Sark's a little reluctant to just say, all right, you know what? I love DeAndre Moore. He's done great, but you're my guy versus Michigan. I don't think he's going there. I think he wants guys who's already played in big games such as Michigan, and that's Isaiah Bond, right? Been big games in the SEC. Honestly, that's Silas Bowden, who's you say what you want about Oregon State, but you know what kind of big games they've been in, but more, no pun intended. And right now, Silas Bowden, from everything that I'm hearing, I mean, is there a report, Patrick, about scrimmage or practice where we haven't talked about Silas Bowden making plays?
No. I mean, they're asked about it every player availability and everything, but every player is like, no, there's something special.
Yep.
And I mean, he's got that thing where, we talk, it's overused probably at this point about having the dog in him, but when you go into building a team that you're trying to get to that next level, and when you have to play against teams like Michigan and Georgia and those championship caliber teams, it's like you need to have a couple of those guys on your roster that you just know they're going to find a way. Mm-hmm. They're going to find a way to make a play when we need the play to be made. And so we're going to have all these skill guys and guys that are really good and can be able to get it done, but we need to have those guys. And that's kind of where you wonder, I mean, they're completely different players, but DeAndre Moore, you think, kind of may have that somewhat too, and that's why they like him. But if you're saying, well, we got to put one of our guys in there that's a dog, it's probably going to be Bolden.
Yeah, based on a report from my man Chip Brown over at 247 Sports, said Silas Bowden caught a deep ball over Gavin Holmes, tackle short of the goal line. So as I said, when I went out there and watched practice through the media window, he was making plays. Like Patrick talks about every time somebody asks about Silas Bowden, players talk about him making plays. Any practice reports are about him making plays. He's close, and he came out the spring, so he has had an accelerated rate of development. He just got here, and he's already making plays against the guys. I don't know. I think he may be one of the guys that I would put in my starting three. I think you got more than 3 starting receivers, but only 3 will start. And right now, my 3 are probably going to be Bond, Bowden, and Cook. But I think Golden can also be considered a starter. Ryan Wingo is not considered one yet just because he doesn't know all the positions. And Sark even said that. But all right, getting back some of the other practice reports, Jarrett Gibson looked better too. Apparently he had a really nice run in the scrimmage, and that was a good thing because remember he had the fumble on the goal line in the first scrimmage. And the young running backs had issues with ball security, but from these latest reports, my man CJ Vogel threw it out there. He actually looked really good. Jerry Gibson looked good, but also the running backs, they were in green jerseys, the non-contact jerseys. So I think it was thud on the running backs. You just thud them up. But like I said, Jerry Gibson looked better, but I mean, they weren't actually hitting them. They were thudding them as opposed to last time.
Yeah.
They were trying to knock their block off.
I will say, I imagine that he's very happy that he did not fumble the ball because of what he was probably put through last time.
Oh, no, I agree. But my point, they didn't tee off on him either because they all had green jerseys on. So.
No, and again, it's the ones you worry about the most with the young guys is stretching while you're falling and trying to make an extra 2 or 3 yards when the ball comes out, or when you're trying to, when you trying to get that extra yard and get stood up, and instead of realizing that these guys are about to come in and strip the ball from you, you're not going down, you're just getting stood up like that, and the play keeps going. And neither one of those you get when you're in the green jersey.
That's true. And you know what? I apologize. Green jersey for Trey Wisner and for Jaden Blue.
Okay,
it does not specify that Jared Gibson was in a green jersey.
Okay.
So Jared Gibson, I think the walk-on Colin Page were not. So maybe they were full go. So he did a much better job holding on to his football. That's my fault. Yeah. And it also says Juan Davis got some work at H-back in the backfield. We talked about that. I would love him to be their version of, I've said Kyle Juszczyk. Some people say Taysom Hill, whatever. Just a guy you move around the chessboard everywhere. So I'm glad Juan Davis is getting some reps there. Also, Jalen Gilbo continues to get reps with the first team at that nickel spot. I think ultimately, I think they'll move Jadae Bear in the corner a lot. I think they're going to end up moving him the corner a lot. They're going to move him around as they've talked about. He's going to play some safety, potentially nickel and corner. When you're trying to get your best 11 out there, if you believe Jalen Gilbo is part of your best 11, and as it said, Gavin Helms is also working out there as the starting corner too. But Malik Muhammad's when you're starting corners, you're going to have Jadae Barron on the field. You're not going to have Jadae Barron on the bench, guys. He's going to be on the field. And the way they're, as much as they're playing Jalen Gilbo, I think he's going to be on the field. And not just as a rotational piece. I think he's going to end up starting. I think Jadae Barron right now, they're hinting that he's going to end up starting at that other corner spot opposite Malik Muhammad. I just think getting your best 11 out there, right? And I think they believe they got 3 starting safeties as well, in Taft, in Derek Williams, and in Makuba.
Yeah.
So I don't know. We'll see, but I think that's a good sign that Jalen Gilbo, that was not a first week of training camp type thing. He is still getting reps as like basically kind of starting nickel at times with the first team. Okay, that's also a nugget. And also we're hearing the defensive line continues to apply pressure on Quinn Ewers. I think it was more of I think this scrimmage, I think more of a toss-up of who won it, offense or defense. First scrimmage, 5 takeaways by the defense. They clearly won the scrimmage. This time I heard that there was a little more back and forth. Offense won their fair share. Defense won some of their fair share too. But offense they took better care of the football, which was more important. And they seemed more buttoned up as an offense. Fewer pre-snap penalties. They just seemed like they were the offense, like they were a little bit more buttoned up. They were in terms of the mental the mental focus of the offense. Since the guys now are a little bit more familiar with all of the calls and the pre-snap movements and shifting. There's a lot of that with Sark too. But I did hear the defensive line applying the pressure. I think that's more of the Johnny Nansen influence. I think that's him. You go look at the defenses for Johnny Nansen in Arizona, higher run blitz rates than Texas, higher twist and stunt, higher percentage of games than Texas up front. I think they're playing some of those games up front. I think you're getting more simulated pressures. PK is not really one for exotic looks and exotic pressure packages with simulated pressures and with a lot of different exotic fronts. He doesn't do that. He's more static and he's more traditional. I told you Johnny Nansen's going to bring a lot of exotic flair and a lot of exotic presentation. I think that's what the Texas O-line is struggling with. Games and twists and stunts up front and the simulated pressures, which is something that looks, smells, walks, talks like a blitz, but it's actually not a blitz. So I think that's what's going on there. All right, there you go. Some practice nuggets from the second scrimmage for Texas, and we'll talk some more Texas football later. But when we come back, we got off the record on the other side. Speaking of Texas football, this guy's got another NIL deal. We'll discuss that and more right here on the Rodcast featuring Patrick Davis. I'm Lifetime Longhorn Rod Davis coming back on the horn. All right, welcome back to the Rodcast featuring Patrick Davis. Time for a little off the record conversation. Shout out to my man Quinn Ewers. You know, Dr. Pepper does their Fansville series of commercials that they do during college football season. They've done it for 6 seasons. This will be going on the 7th. Shout out to my man Doc_Texas who hooked me up with this story. He said this year Quinn Ewers is the lucky athlete with an NIL deal. So he's going to get the NIL deal to be in these series of Dr. Pepper commercials promoting the upcoming college football season. Fansville. You've probably seen them. Like I said, they're kind of cheesy, but I mean, they're some of them can be funny. But they actually do reference. They got a sign stealing reference in this one too, which is pretty good. Yeah, which is not bad. They got a hype train reference in it. So yeah, it's not bad, but good for Quinn. Quinn once again another NIL deal. I'm going to go back and try to track and see how many he actually has because I feel like now they're just adding up. He's got the Hulu deal now. I'm talking about the national one. He's got a Hulu deal.
His agent's doing good.
They're doing real good. He's got the private jet deal. I forget who that's with. They got a private jet deal. That's some other ones I'm missing. I'm missing a bunch of them. I know he's got like I think he's got multiple. I think he's got like a truck and like a luxury car.
So this is, but they do the little 1 minute trailer of it coming back, right?
Yes.
And they show who he's going to be. That he says I have a new character, but he's the deputy.
Yes,
but
he is.
They have to throw in some OU Texas jokes in there, right? Some Texas OU jokes because Brian Bosworth is the sheriff.
So. He is the sheriff, yeah.
So if Brian Bosworth is the sheriff and Quinn Ewers is the deputy, you have to throw some of those jokes in, right?
You do. I forgot. You're right about the Boz is actually, he's the sheriff in that. I used to live near the Boz. Crazy enough. And I'm sure he still lives in Austin, but I lived near him for probably like two years or so. I would see him out walking his dogs in all of his OU gear, and just to mess with him. So I would wear all of my Texas gear. Like I was it'd be early in the morning, and I'm draped in just Texas stuff, all stuff, and it looks like. Oh, that looks like stuff that a player would wear, kind of Texas stuff. I can wear my player gear because he'd be decked out in OU gear. And I'm like, you know what, man, we can't have this. So I knew who he was, and he knows that I knew who he was. There's no way he knew who I was. He probably thought I was just some idiot fan that was messing with him. But I would make sure to wear all my Texas gear, and I would speak, and he'd speak and everything from a distance. Never went and talk to him. Just wanted him to know that I know who you are, representing Oklahoma here, brother. And you ain't gonna do that without, getting your comeuppance here and me representing Texas. So it was actually fun. But I didn't forget all about that he was on X commercials too. So you're right.
Yeah,
there definitely will be Texas OU jokes.
There will be, because if Quinn is the deputy to Boz's sheriff, then you're setting it up.
Yeah, that's easy. That's just easy money. That's just okay. So we'll get those. Yeah, I know. Good for him. But you're right. His agent, whoever his agent is, they do a damn good job for him because he's damn near there. He got the video game. Forgot about the video game thing. I mean, he's got some big. I wonder if he's got the most NIL deals for any starting quarterback in the country.
I mean, I haven't seen Carson Beck in a lot of stuff. I've been looking, but I haven't seen him in a lot of stuff.
I can't imagine somebody's got more. I can't imagine a starting quarterback's got more because I'm trying to think about.
I would
Shadur probably does. Maybe Shadur.
But what do you see him in really?
I don't see him in a lot of stuff. It's a good point. I don't. He didn't make the video game cover. I don't think he has a private jet deal like Quinn does. He did the Hulu deal. So I'm like I said, maybe he does, but I'm with you. I don't think so. Actually, I don't think so.
I think you throw in.
I have seen.
I think the reality is you throw in a top quarterback on the biggest brand in college football.
Yep.
Financially, that it makes sense to give him.
That's then when Arch takes over, he's gonna have more.
Oh yeah, I mean, because that was like what Caleb Williams was on this Fansville before because it's USC and this top quarterback. So makes sense.
Yeah, no, it's a good for Quinn, man.
Yes,
hope and I think we all believe Quinn's gonna back it up, no doubt about that too. All right, I had another story, but we can save that one for tomorrow. We'll come back. We'll get into NFL news, notes, and nuggets. Peyton Manning names his top quarterbacks, his favorite quarterbacks, I should say, but he also names a top guy. We'll dive into that. Also, we'll get into the latest from the CeeDee Lamb contract negotiations with the Dallas Cowboys. Jay Witt continues to get a lot of love. Xavier Worthy has his first touchdown in the preseason. We'll dive into those topics. We got a Rangers report as well, I believe, coming up in 9 o'clock. We'll dive into that, and we'll also have Rod's rant of the day. All of that and more right here on the Rodcast featuring Patrick Davis on Lifetime Longhorn. Rod Babers coming back on the horn. Welcome back to the Rodcast. It is a smooth show Monday edition of the Rodcast, and that's my man Patrick Davis coming up with that. He comes up with all the musically themed days of the week, but my co-host called him the Idea You Now for a reason. The purpose of a smooth show Monday is to ease you into the work week after a fun-filled, stress-free, relaxing weekend. You can be slapped in the face by a very traumatic Monday with meetings and traffic. My man Patrick wants to make sure he eases you into that transition. And the purpose of a Smooth Soul Monday is to do just that. So we appreciate him hooking us up with all the jams on a Smooth Soul Monday. Also, we appreciate him hooking us up with the topic for the big fat poll of the day, which is already posted on the X account at the Horn ATX. Go check it out for yourself. Patrick, give the folks the topic for the big fat poll of the day.
Big fat poll of the day. How many yards will the leading rusher for the Texans have this season? 800 and 900 has taken over the lead. Hill believing that there is going to be some issues there on that line to get them able up to 1,000-yard rusher. That number 2 is 1,000 plus for 32. People believe it in Joe Mixon. He's going to get it done. Then we go 900 to 1,000, and finally taking up the rear 700 to 800.
Yeah, I think the injury concern is a big one, and just the running game overall. I mean, you're going on faith that this running game would improve the Texans running game for, honestly, guys, we're going on 4 years now, probably 4 or 5 years where the running game has just been subpar. You said 2019 they had, and that's how I say it makes sense, right? Yeah, 4 or 5 years, because 2019 you said was the last 1,000-yard rusher they had. It makes perfect sense. That to me, as a Texans fan, is probably, in terms of recent history, that's as far back as I can recall the Texans running game having some juice. But last season, 26th in yards per carry, 26th in EPA per rush, 29th in success rate in the running game, 18th in 10-plus yard runs in the running game, 27th in a rate of runs that failed to gain yardage at all. So 20% of their runs didn't go a damn place at all. They lost yardage or they didn't gain any yardage. 31st in first down touchdown rate on the ground. 24th in yards before contact. 29th in yards after contact. So any way you're looking at it, they were pretty bad. If you look at EPA per rush, they were 26 last year, but 31st in 2022. 2021, they were 31st and 31st in 2020. It's bad. And the scheme, it doesn't help it, even though it's a Shanahan scheme, and the I would say the strategy by Bobby Slowick doesn't help that the running game is subpar. So I think it improves this year just because you're going to have more weapons for the defense to defend means they're going to take defenders out of the box. So you'll be able to go up against lighter boxes, but even against a light box, which is fewer defenders than you have blockers, yards per carry for the Texans, 5 yards per carry, the 16th in the NFL, 19th in success rate, 36%, 19th in EPA per rush. They're just average once you get them against a light box. Against a loaded box, they're 29th in yards per carry, 29th in success rate, 28th, in EPA per rush. So they're bad against loaded boxes, but they won't get many of those because people fear CJ Stroud now and the weapons he's throwing to. And they'll try to keep 11 personnel out there, 3 receivers on the field, which is good. But like I said, even against a light box, it shows you when they have more blockers than the defenders to block, they still only get 5 yards per rush, and they're middle of the road in average. So that running game has got some ways to go, long ways to go, actually. You ain't beating Kansas City with that running game. All right, we'll get into some more Texans discussion, actually, or some NFL discussion, I should say, coming up here in this segment. We'll hear from Peyton Manning talking about his top 5 favorite quarterbacks in the NFL. We know why he names this guy as the top guy, the top dog. We'll also dive into the conversation about Jay Witt and Xavier Worthy. Both had really good week 2s preseasons in the NFL. We got a Rangers report, and I saw a ranking of the top high schools in the country, and I was blown away, flabbergasted at the amount of schools that rank in the top 50 just for the state of Texas compared to the other states. Yeah, football is definitely a religion in the state of Texas. We'll get to that, but before we do, let's get updated, let's get educated, let's get informed on all the top stories of the day with Patrick Davis and the Horn Headlines.
All right, your Horn Headlines brought to you by Top Gun Rentals and Lawn Equipment. In the MLB, the Astros won their series with the White Sox over the weekend, with Hunter Brown and Framber Valdez both picking up wins. A top Astros prospect, Shea Whitcomb, made his MLB debut on Saturday, picking up 2 hits, filling in for an injured Alex Bregman. The Astros now start a rough stretch of schedule against the Red Sox tonight, with no days off until September and facing all winning teams in their next 4 series. And the Rangers close out their series with the Twins, picking up an extra innings victory on Sunday. Adolis Garcia walked off the game with some good base running after an infield hit and an error by Josh Young. The Rangers now move on to the series with the Pirates, likely pitching a bullpen game tonight. In the NFL, the Texans got a 28-10 win over the Giants, scoring first on a Jalen Petrie pick 6, then adding a John Mechie receiving TD and 2 British Brooks rushing touchdowns. And the Cowboys beat the Raiders 27-12, with Trey Lance scoring both a passing and rushing touchdown, taking most of the QB snaps for the game. And that is your Horn headlines.
All right. Thank you, Patrick, for the Horn headlines. Got a couple of stories I want to get into here. First of all, let's talk about the Longhorns. Props to Xavier Worthy and props to my man Jay Witt. Both had really good, impressive performances in the preseason. Jay Witt, by the way, is your preseason leader. It's hard to find preseason stats, but I went down the rabbit hole, found some pretty reliable ones from CBS Sports, and found that Jay Witt is the preseason leader, not among rookies. We're talking to all receivers in the preseason. Yes, I know it's a preseason, but still, all right. I think it's pretty impressive. He leads all preseason receivers in targets and receptions. He's got 17 targets, 12 receptions. I believe you look at yards too. He's also, let me make sure I get it here. I'll make sure I get it right. Yeah, he's top 5 in receiving yards as well. Got 126 total receiving yards. So he's top 5 in receiving yards, and top 5 in receiving yards, receptions, and targets, but he's the top receiver when it comes to targets and receptions. So the question is now with Jay Witt is, because usually when the Rams have a reputation for finding these gems, these diamonds in the rough at the wide receiver position in the middle and the late rounds, Cooper Kupp, Puka Nacua. In those 2 cases, they shut those guys down early. Puka Nacua, they shut him down after week 1. He had 5 targets, 3 receptions, 52 yards, 1 touchdown, did not play the rest of the preseason. And that was an indicator. Okay, the reason he ain't playing the preseason is because he's going to be an immediate contributor for us when the season starts. So we don't need him during the preseason. The regular season starts, he's going to be a guy that's going to contribute right away. Same thing with Cooper Kupp. When they found him, and he had 3 targets, 2 receptions, 35 yards the first week, but the second week of the preseason, 7 targets, 6 receptions, 70 yards, and 1 touchdown. He did not play the rest of the preseason because they figured he is going to be an immediate contributor. We don't need to see what he's going to do in the preseason. We know what he's going to do, so we need to make sure he's ready for the regular season. The hope is that Jordan Whittington, because he's going to make the team, but whether he's going to be a guy that contributes right away, somebody that they are going to depend on heavily in the rotation and actually get target share. If he gets shut down early this preseason, that is more of an indicator. It's not the only one, but it's more of an indicator that no, he's going to contribute right away, and they are going to depend on him for target share and rotational snaps. And I think that's where I'm leaning. I think he's done. I mean, you've seen enough of him. 17 targets, 12 receptions, and all the compliments, right? Sean McVay was very complimentary of him after game 1, saying he was very mature and he's a grown man out there. We heard Mike LaFleur, I believe the offensive coordinator for the Rams, say something very similar about him and his maturity as a player. Cooper Kupp said he was special and said that and indicated that he already was getting first team reps. And that was actually during minicamp. As a matter of fact, we have Cooper Kupp here. This is Cooper Kupp during the during the preseason game 2. He was asked about Jordan Whittington's ascent with the Rams. Here's what Cooper Kupp had to say.
About one of those guys, Jordan Whittington. Cooper had a huge game last week. Exciting to see him out here again. What do you like about him? What are you seeing from the young man?
Yeah, man, he competes. You saw him come out in OTAs, and we heard so many good things about him. As soon as we drafted him, it was crazy the number of people that reached out and were just like, man, Jordan Whittington, I know him from so-and-so, He's an awesome guy. You're going to love him. And seeing him just grow and show up to training camp ready to go, his growth in a very short amount of time has been extremely impressive.
You know, I'm going to put, Cooper, those two questions together here because I don't know if you saw it here. Nice run, and the Rams packed up now onto their side of the field. Reminded Vidal, the rookie, second to the NCAA in rushing a year ago with that carry. Cooper, Whittington was mic'd up last week, and, you know, he had 6, he had 74. He had a great game. And at one point, he's overheard saying, man, I love this receiver room. Everybody supports everybody. And it was almost like this, wow, like, I love that I am loved. This is such a cool place to work. Did you hear that?
I did hear that, and that's great. That's cool to hear because I think we do have that. That's kind of the culture we want to set. We want to be, a place where guys that are going to come be a part of the LA Rams organization, that you've got people around you that are lifting you up to be the best player that you can be. At the end of the day, that's what we want. We want guys to be at the very best. We're trying to be the best organization we can be. And so for him to say that, there's confirmation on just, guys that are coming up that don't know anyone, for him to feel that, it's a pretty cool thing.
All right, there you go. Cooper Kupp talking about Jay Witt. And, everybody seems to be on board that, Jay Witt this story is legit. Like, it's not only is he having, one of the best preseasons that we've seen from a rookie, but the Rams actually believe in him because they're seeing it in practice and they're seeing it didn't translate to the regular season game. And like he's a gamer and they see it in the game and go, well, this guy's surprised. So they're seeing it in practice too, consistently. And then it translates over into the games.
Yeah, it's crazy. I love the fact in there he says, like, how many people called him and hit him up to tell him when he got drafted, like, dude, you got a real one. And so he had that, but then you still say, okay, well, we know that. And he shows up in practice and then he practices really well. And you go, okay, maybe, we thought he was he was going to be an intangibles guy, but he wasn't going to be that level, but maybe he can get there. And then you put him in these preseason games. And now for 2 of the preseason games, it wasn't a one-off game that he looked good for. He's looked good for 2 games now. And everything just keeps coming up where you go, we thought we were getting a guy and kind of taking a chance. And it feels like we're rounding third right now. Like, that's what it feels like. So they got to be thrilled from, I'm sure that the Rams organization, we know that, they had the ties in to the Texas locker room to hear it, to get the initial suggestion, but it feels like everybody they tried to vet him with, it just kept getting better and better.
Yep. And I totally agree. Tate Haver is the young man's name, long snapper for Texas, who's the son of Les Snead, the general manager of the Rams. So that was a reference, him talking about Jay Witt as a culture bearer and a great teammate, and everybody knows that. And I gave you guys the story about the interviews for Jay Witt and how he would talk about his favorite plays, and his favorite plays were not even targets that he got. And they were the play in the TCU game where he forces the fumble off the intercepted pass, and then Texas gets the ball back, and it was a play against Iowa State where he pulls Rojo over the first down marker and helps Texas seal the victory in that game. So the coaches, they were very intrigued by his unselfish nature as a player, and even talking about his favorite play that to block for his duo, and the Rams run a lot of that. That's their bread butter run play. Nobody runs it more, and that's his favorite play to block for. He would talk about that, and these are all the things that I think really piqued the interest of NFL scouts. And as Patrick mentioned, they drafted him on intangibles. They drafted him on, man, he's got good references. He sounds like he's a great football character guy. Let's bring him in, man. He'd probably be great for our culture.
Yeah.
And then they learned that
just mentions the what they're trying to build in that wide receiver room. And
then the references, like he references like people was calling us. So I'm assuming those are high school coaches or, guys from around the league or scouts from around the league. Like, damn, man, we thought we were going to get him. He was the guy we wanted, and stuff like that. And then you bring him in, and like Patrick was like, no, he's a bowler. Not only is he a great culture guy, he's a baller. We get the added value. He's actually a baller. It's like, yeah, we all knew he was a baller. We just couldn't stay healthy at Texas. But now that he's healthy, that could end up being another, like I said, diamond in the rough for them. And they're starting to develop a reputation. And good for him that Jay Witt ends up in LA with Sean McVay, Matt Stafford as his quarterback. He deserves, right? If 100%. Anybody deserves, if anybody deserves to actually start their NFL career with it that way, it'd be Jay Witt, considering everything he's been through. Go hang out on the beach after practice and kick it. You know what I mean? Go hang out with, with Hollywood stars. I wouldn't doubt if I see Jay Witt on a red carpet somewhere. He's that kind of dude. So congrats to Jay Witt, man. That's a great story. Let's talk about Xavier Worthy for a second. Xavier Worthy had his first showcase performance in the preseason. 4 receptions, 73 yards, 1 touchdown. Had a 22-yard touchdown from Carson Wentz, actually, and then had 2 receptions earlier in the game from Patrick Mahomes. And this is what I'll say about Xavier Worthy, because I've been making sure that I go watch as much of Xavier Worthy as I can. And if you are watching, the Chiefs in the preseason, which some people do and some people don't care about watching Chiefs preseason, you'll notice that they're going to feature Xavier Worthy. Like, he's basically going to be a featured player with them. Patrick Mahomes has 18 preseason dropbacks this season, and 16 of those 18 dropbacks, Xavier Worthy has been on the field running routes. Like, for those 16 dropbacks. Rashee Rice is the only receiver with more, and that's 17. Travis Kelce was only on the field for 15 of them, but just to let you know, so when the first team's out there, he's going to be a featured receiver for them, a featured piece. And, I went back and started looking at some of the plays, even when Xavier Worthy's not getting the football. And now when he's getting the football, you can tell they want to, they want to get him the football on the move. And so they use a lot of pre-snap motion with him. And the Kansas City Chiefs are top 5 in the NFL in pre-snap motion. So they can get him the football, on the move a little bit, and they can deter DBs from wanting to get their hands on Xavier Worthy, which is smart. And they want to use him to take the top off the defense. And I've been talking about this for a while with Patrick Mahomes. The last 2 years, Patrick Mahomes has been one of the worst deep ball passers in the NFL, like, period. And it's his, over the last 5 seasons, his average depth of a touchdown pass, basically his average yardage for a touchdown pass, has decreased significantly. It was 17 yards in 2019. It's 4.5 yards in 2022. You'll look at in 2023, it was 3.9 yards was his average length of a touchdown pass. His yards per attempt are also lower than they've ever been. 6.9 yards was average depth of target. There was just no verticality to that offense. If you go look at it, Kansas City's total distance of all their 2023 touchdown passes last season was 30th in the NFL. Only Carolina and the New York Jets had a lower total distance of air yards of touchdown passes. And you're going to look at touchdown plays of 10 plus yards, Kansas City, 31st in the NFL. The Carolina Panthers were the only team that was worse. It's amazing that they actually were able to win the Super Bowl with no vertical. That offense it was a boring offense last year. They didn't throw the football downfield. They didn't have a vertical threat downfield. It was just Travis Kelce, and it also kind of reminded me of Colt McCoy and Jordan Shipley. Like, remember that 2009 offense? There wasn't really much to it at all. It was a bromance between those two, and they would double team them, couldn't stop them, and there wasn't much else on that offense. There was some other guys I'm not trying to take away from, but it was mostly, you guys know, it was that bromance. That's what that Kansas City offense was last year. It was just Travis Kelce and Patrick Mahomes and their bromance. And now, because Kansas City has relied more on yards after the catch. Last season, they had a highest percentage of yards after the catch. They had 60%. That was more than they had even in 2022. And that was the highest in the league, yards coming after the catch for them. And that's where Xavier Worthy that's where he was really a weapon for Sark. I believe Xavier Worthy in college, 7.3 yards after the catch per reception. So they're going to use him in the right way, but they also want him to be a deep threat because they lost their deep threat. And the irony of that is he was not a good deep threat in college. Like, we know that, right? They couldn't, for some reason, connect on the deep ball, him and Quinn Ewers. He ranked 118th out of 133 Texas did 118th out of 133 FBS teams in adjusted completion percentage on deep ball throws, 20 plus yards down the field. They just could not figure it out. And Xavier Worthy, like I said, he was, like I said, one of the best receivers in the country, but for his deep ball accuracy, or I say deep ball conversion rate, was one of the worst in college football. His 9.2 yards per target average on deep passes, worst of any projected receiver in that Power 5 class that he was in. but until that Power 5 class of receivers that he came out with in the draft. But they use him on deep threats a ton. So you can tell, and even on his touchdown from Carson Wentz was a deep ball throw. And you've seen all the highlights in practice of him on deep passes from Patrick Mahomes. So there's no doubt. Like I said, that's part of the narrative that's affecting Quinn negatively by NFL scouts, is that when they look at Xavier Worthy in the NFL now and they see him taking the tops off of defenses and he becomes arguably the best deep threat in the NFL, they're going to go back to the college film and go, well, see, the problem wasn't Xavier Worthy. The problem on the deep balls was all on Quinn. And that's why Quinn's got to battle against that negative narrative this season. And that's why you go look at the off-target rates on Xavier Worthy's throws in college. He had 22% off-target rate on his throws, the highest in that wide receiver class. And other people put that on Quinn and now on Xavier Worthy. But what you'll notice if you watch Xavier Worthy and the Kansas City Chiefs in those dropbacks, when he's not getting the football, he's running off defenses. The gravity that he has now, and essentially gravity is when you can attract defenders. The gravity he has now is unbelievable. I've seen several plays where there is as many as 3 defenders running with Xavier Worthy on deep over routes, on deep post routes. And then it just leaves the intermediate area and the short area of the field wide open for a Travis Kelce or for one of the other lackluster receivers to get easy separation, because the top has been taken off defense and it leaves the middle of the field just wide blank open. So to me, that's going to be one of the biggest advantages, one of the hidden advantages and hidden values of bringing Xavier Worthy is the gravity. I seen it in when they played Jacksonville, how defenders would just gravitate towards him. I seen it in the game with the Lions. He would take 2 or 3 defenders with him when he would run those deep over routes. Guys, that's going to be the true value. It's going to be that. So the deep ball is going to come back, and the yards to catch, that'll all be there. That's kind of, I think, naturally part of his game. But what people don't anticipate is the gravity he's going to have, because people already fear that speed, and the scramble drill ability, which I talked about. When the fastest guy ever attracted the combine is combined with Patrick Mahomes, who is the best sack avoidance quarterback in the NFL, he's going to extend a play from the usual 3.5 seconds, sometimes to 5.5 to 6 seconds. And covering a guy like Xavier Worthy for 5 to 6 seconds is almost impossible, because he's going to reach top speed at one point, and you ain't got that kind of speed. And then you got a quarterback that can make any throw, all right, touch any blade of grass on a football field from any angle where he's scrambling or extending the play. It's a scary proposition for the rest of the league. So and you're starting to see a little bit. I haven't seen the scramble drill much. I started in practice, some practice cuts. You haven't seen it in the game because they've only had 18 dropbacks in the game, and they don't even probably want Patrick Mahomes extending the play to that extent, probably telling him, hey, you need to be really conservative in the preseason. Throw it away. Don't scramble. He only scrambles truly is a effective scrambler is in the postseason, because he doesn't scramble when he doesn't have to. But in the postseason, he gives it all up, lays it all on the line, and becomes one of the most effective scrambling quarterbacks in the league. All right, so that's the take about Jay Witt and Xavier Worthy. All right, let's get to this. Can we just pat this Peyton Manning sound? Peyton Manning had a sit-down conversation with Stephen A. Smith, and one of the topics that came up was Peyton Manning's favorite quarterbacks in the league. He didn't want to rank them, but he does give you his favorites, and he starts with the top dog.
Right, and quarterbacks need to be coached hard, and Andy Reid coaches Patrick Mahomes hard, and that's good for Patrick. That's bad for NFL defenses, right? So that's number one. Patrick Mahomes number one. God, ratings are so hard. You get in so much trouble. You get mad about that. How about you have to rank? Just these games. Look, I'm a big fan of Joe Burrow. Right? I'm glad to see him back healthy. Right? I like the way he carries himself. I like his demeanor out there. He doesn't sweat. He doesn't flinch. Right? He's just kind of calm and cool the whole time. This Justin Herbert is as talented as anybody. He can throw it around. He can throw it around. Harbaugh, like I said, the Broncos division is going to be tough. I mean, Lamar Jackson does things that just don't seem possible with the football in his hand. He makes throws. He runs. and he's smart about, he protects himself too, right? I mean, look, I never could run, so I never had that problem, right? But the thing we were talking about earlier, quarterbacks, that like to run, you still got to find a way to get out of bounds or get down and be there on the next play, right? If you get hurt, I mean, look, defenses, if the quarterback gets hurt, they're probably going to win that game. Right. So I love the way Lamar carries himself. I think he'll have a great year this year. One more. I mean, this, like I said, Josh Allen's a total stud. Tough. Like I saw him this summer. I mean, he is so motivated to bring the championship to Buffalo.
All right, there you go. That's Peyton Manning. So if we just go in order, I don't think we want to avoid the word ranking, but to go in order, get at Patrick Mahomes, and he admitted Patrick Mahomes was the best far and away. And then second, he brought up Joe Burrow, Joe Cool. Third, he brought up Justin Herbert. Then fourth, he brought up Lamar Jackson, and fifth, he brought up Josh Allen. And I do think the mobility factor for those guys, Lamar Jackson, Josh Allen, kind of pushes him to the back because he's a pocket passing quarterback. That's how he sees the world. And that's what Patrick Mahomes is. That's what Joe Burrow is. That's what Justin Herbert, even though they have functional mobility, those are pocket passing QBs. But that's his 5 favorite QBs. First of all, it's Peyton Manning. So what are you going to say to disagree with Peyton Manning? But Herbert's probably the one you could debate there. But there's a significant drop off between the best quarterback in the league, who I think most people believe is the best player in the league, in Patrick Mahomes, and then the rest of the league. And I don't know if that exists in any other sport right now, in a major American team sport, where the best player in the world is that much better than everybody else. But I think that's the conversation, right? Who's the second best QB in the league is it's the conversation to have. And yeah. It could be any three of those four guys. It could be potentially. Yeah, it could be Lamar. It could be Burrow. It could be Josh Allen.
It could be. And I think you could say after this season there could be another person in there too. I think CJ Stroud, if he has another year like he did, he gets into that conversation. But we said too, I'll say you gotta get further in the playoffs. Like the reason Joe Burrow sits at number 2 right now is because he beat Patrick Mahomes one year.
Yep, that's it.
He made it to a Super Bowl. And if you make it in the Super Bowl in the AFC instead of Lamar Jackson and instead of Patrick Mahomes and instead of Joe Burrow, you now get in that conversation. But if you can't get past them, it's hard to. Lamar Jackson, they just beat the crap out of the Texans last season in the playoffs.
Yeah, they did.
It was not close. So
no, it was not.
That's one where you sit there and you go, I can't put CJ Stroud ahead of Lamar Jackson in that Ravens team because we saw the results last year in the playoffs. And that's where I can look at that list, and Herbert's the only one that falls in that because they weren't doing anything. They're not making the playoffs.
No, that's not that division, man. It's just tough. We'll see. Harbaugh's football prowess as a ball coach will be put to the test in that division because Patrick Mahomes, they have run that division. And I will say that the Chargers, though, Justin Herbert, if he gets a run game, you talked about, they got some defensive pieces. I think Harbaugh is going to turn it around and turn them into a playoff team. But still, everything runs through Kansas City. Everything runs through Kansas City. But yeah, there you go. Patrick Mahomes, once again, he got a behind-the-back pass now added to his repertoire. Dude's just unreal. I'll give you one Patrick Mahomes stat, and we'll move on here. Won't give you too many of them. They're all pretty cartoonish. But this is the one that I gave earlier just to kind of sum up how dominant Patrick Mahomes' run has been so far with Kansas City. So if you go look at his total games played, I believe Patrick Mahomes if you include playoffs too, 114 total games played for Patrick Mahomes. Only 4 of those games that they have lost by more than one score. Out of the 114 games he's played, 4 of the 114. You're just never out of a game with that dude. Never out of a game with that dude. Okay. We have, I want to get into that CeeDee Lamb conversation. We'll save that to next. We'll get into that next segment. We'll hear from Mike Garofalo giving you an update on CeeDee Lamb's contract negotiations with the Cowboys. We'll also dive into a interesting ranking high school football ranking by On3. First year they've done it, ranking a top 100, I believe, football programs around the country. How many does the great state of Texas have? You'll be surprised, or maybe you won't. But still, very eye-opening stuff. We'll dive into it. And there's a Rangers report coming up, so we're going to cram a lot into the next segment right here on the Rodcast, featuring Patrick Davis. I'm Lifetime Longhorn Rod Davis. Coming back on the horn. All right, before we get to this ranking of the best high school football programs in the country, let's talk CeeDee Lamb and the Dallas Cowboys because we got an update from Mike Garofalo of NFL Network. Now, we know that the latest offer from the Cowboys is hovering around $33 million. Some say a little bit below $33 million, haven't reached that number just yet. Some say it's right at $33 million. Some say it's right above $33 million. Well, Mike Garofalo, he reiterates that, but also gives you another little nugget here, and those who are keeping track of these negotiations between CeeDee Lamb and the Dallas Cowboys.
Okay, well, let's keep this theme rolling then. Talk another top-tier wide receiver awaiting a contract extension in CeeDee Lamb. What's the latest there with the Cowboys?
So you saw reports that the Cowboys and CeeDee Lamb and his representation met to try to resolve this thing a couple of days ago. It did not happen. Now, you've seen the reported numbers that are out there about 33. I've seen higher than 33. I've seen lower than 33. My understanding is it's around 33. And for Lamb, that's still not good enough. The top of the market is 35 with Justin Jefferson. So he wants that to come up. And the structure, I am told via sources familiar with Lamb's thinking, needs to be worked on as well. Cash flow, guarantees, how that's going to be structured on the front half of the deal. So there's still a lot of work to be done here. And Lamb is represented by Tory Dandy, an agent who knows this wide receiver market because he helped set the wide receiver. I mean, he's got a ton of receivers that he's done deals for over the last year, including A.J. Brown, who is right there below that tier that the Cowboys are trying to offer right now. So that one continues. That standoff continues. We'll see if there's any progress made in the near future.
So he's reporting that $33 million per year might not be enough for CeeDee Lamb. Looks like they're gonna have to get to $35 million per year. His argument would be that he means as much to the Cowboys as any receiver means to their team. And then there is the discussion of cash, straight cash, homie. How much of the contract will be guaranteed? What percentage of that, and how much of that is going to be in signing bonus? So it still seems like they're pretty far apart. I mean, I don't know if they're like, I don't know if we're Grand Canyon, in terms of the distance between the two. I don't know if it's a Grand Canyon size gap, but hey, cash flow and guarantees, I mean, and then average annual salary per year, we're not agreed on any of those?
Apparently
we're not close. Then we're not close. Can we have one of these that we agree on at least?
But that's the thing is, I think, again, I'll say it's 2 out of 3. I think you have to have 2 out of 3 that you're going to take care of CeeDee Lamb on him. And most teams now will say, let me give you the cash up front. And that'll make you much happier because you're walking out of the room today with $70-80 million. It's going to make you sign a lot of other things, right? Because you're getting that money up front. Jerry, we know, doesn't do that. So if you're now having to have the hard sell of, well, we don't think you're the top wide receiver. You're not a top wide receiver, so you're not going to get top wide receiver money. Also, we don't deal in cash. You're not getting that. And personally, we want to have a structure of a deal that's good for us. So we don't care that it's good for you. And we want to give it to you where, we need some flexibility now because our salary cap's pretty tight and we got to pay Dak and we got to pay Micah. So if you could take, 25 next year and then 30 the year after, and then those back 2 years will be big. They're not guaranteed. Those will be big numbers.
Big numbers, yeah.
Those will
like
be
Tyreek Hill's big numbers.
Yeah,
right?
man. A 5th year of your contract, $55 million a year. Well, will I ever see it? Not a chance. It's funny money.
Seriously, these agents aren't that stupid anymore, man.
No, players I don't think are that
now.
stupid. I don't think anybody is. It's all very much more out there than it used to be, where you could get away with a little bit more of that funny money stuff. But now everybody's aware of it. Everybody knows, And I mean, Jerry can try and sell him. You'll be getting a new contract. But if you can't say, well, I'm giving you a 4th year and it's not guaranteed, then that's like, well, that's a team option basically at that point.
Pretty much. That's exactly right. Yep. And with the history we know of Jerry Jones and spending cash, I think we can safely assume one of the issues is just cash.
Yeah.
Like so whether that be a signing bonus or whether that be the maybe this the amount guaranteed because there's a certain amount of cash that must be put aside when you guarantee a certain amount in a contract. But cash is one of the big things. It's cash, man.
Yeah,
they don't want to spend that cash. They don't. And I hope that if they're being this way with CD in the cash, what are they gonna do with Dak in the cash? Because Dak gonna get. I mean, Dak's signing bonus, guys. I'm not joking. It may be like $100 million signing bonus. You think that's crazy, but Justin Jefferson got like 80-something million.
Well, and
Jordan Love got 75 million.
I think there's, and I mean, there's something we're saying in all this of the reason, one of the big reasons why cash is so much more valuable now than it used to be is that all these guys have financial guys now because the money's so much. These guys didn't used to. They took the money to buy houses. They have financial people around them that go, if you take 75 in over 3 years, it's going to be $75 million. If you give me $75 million right now, it'll be $200 million for you.
Yeah, I can flip it for you.
It'll be in 3 years, you have $200 million.
Yeah.
So get me the money and we can grow the money for you. We can grow your wealth if we have the money. But if it's just sitting waiting for them to pay you,
we can take out loans and we can take out loans on your net worth, but we got to pay that back. Yeah, exactly. Like,
so there's more.
No,
they have financial guys and they go, no, I can make money. I can make more money than you just paying me a salary. So give it to me up front and I can make more out of that. But that's the problem is if you have that thrown in with not making the highest paid of all time and add in the fact that you're not going to guarantee this money. So CeeDee Lamb fully understands that if that 4th year is not guaranteed or 5th year or 3rd year, or whatever the contract is, if it's not guaranteed, you're calling him to renegotiate before that last year comes up because you'll say, well, we're going to cut you. Like, we're not paying it.
Pretty much. Yeah. No, it's that's a great point about the financial advisors. Remember, they not too long ago had was that 30 for 30 that broke 30 for 30. We were talking about the players that went broke. I mean, that was a common story in the league, and it still is a way too common story. But you have now guys who have more financial education, financial literacy. They have smarter, savvier business people around them, and you're right, they're dealing with generational wealth. And yeah, you're right about that 75 million. You get that in cash in 3-4 years, that 75 million can easily be flipped double. You can double that with 75 million, though. You got to have it.
Exactly. You have to have it. And that's really been the big issue is, you look back 15 years ago, what's a number one wide receiver making a year?
Oh, back then it's probably 10 million or something.
So you
like
say,
that?
we're making 10, and that's great. But after
10,
taxes
12.
and agents and everything else, okay, now, we don't necessarily have that. So you don't have that financial advisor sitting on there going, man, do you understand how, that's a lot of money. We can do this. When you have that amount, we can make a lot more with it because we can buy real estate. We can buy, we can invest into hedge funds. We can do all these things that otherwise we're investing, 500,000.
Yep.
And it'll make you money, but not the same amount.
Yeah, that's why the guys, and I think that's a prime reason why the guys want the cash, man. They want the cash, and the Cowboys, not really a team that has been very, very free flowing, and they haven't been willing to spend that cash as of late. But we'll see. Things always and must change. All right, we'll get into that coming up tomorrow a little bit more too, because I got a breakdown about the receivers that I want to do some research I've been doing. But first, let's hit this ranking. So on 3. This is the first annual ranking they've done of the best high school football programs in the country. And I'm not even sure how deep they go. I went looking at the top 100, but I believe they go past the top 100 too, if I'm not mistaken here. So I didn't go. I'm not going to bore you to half to death. So I didn't go deep into the list like that. But like I said, they go to 150. I think they go. Yeah, it's going to 200. That's it. I believe they might go. Who knows? They may go to 1,000. I have no idea. I may go to 500. But I went and looked at the top 50 because, like I said, I didn't want to bore you half to death. So look at the top 50. What they believe are the top 50 high school football programs in America by On 3. And I wanted to look at the premier states, the states that are the most fertile recruiting states for high school football. And that's California, that's Texas, that's Florida, that's Georgia. Actually, Georgia has surpassed California as of late, and Georgia is producing probably more NFL prospects than everybody except for Texas and Florida. Yes, they have surpassed California. It's crazy. A lot of it's migration and population booms and population issue. We talk about that. Politics, people leaving California, going to the places we know. But we don't want to get into all that right now. I'll just give you the raw numbers. So I went and looked at those 4 states because those are the 4 states that have the best high school football. At least they're known for having the best high school football. So California had 5 schools ranked in the top 50. Perfectly respectable. 5 schools, top 50, 10% of the top 50 California schools. Florida only had 4. And that fits and that tracks because guys will tell you, if they're recruiting experts, they'll tell you Florida's always a little behind when it comes to weight rooms and strength and conditioning programs. They don't pay their coaches a lot, so they don't get good coaches that want to coach in Florida. So they're a little bit behind. Florida's a little bit ahead of them there in terms of the salary for coaches and infrastructure, stadiums, facilities, stuff like that. So Florida's at 4. Georgia's at 7. They had number 23, number 25, number 33, number 42, number 44, number 47, number 41. California had number 1, number 5, number 12, number 18, number 34. So California had 5, but 2 in the top 5. Florida had 4, but 2 in the top 20, 9 and 19. Actually, I take 3 in the top 20, 9, 19, and 20. Georgia had 7 high schools in the top 50. 23, 25, 33, 42, 44, 47, 41, and that's it. So it's 7 in the top 50, but none in the top 20, strangely enough, for Georgia. Texas, guys, Texas had 20 schools in the top 50. You think football means more in this state? 20 schools in the top 50. Unbelievable. And it reminds me of that story from when the Green Bay Packers played in the Super Bowl down here, and I think they practiced at like Highland Park, And all the guys kept saying that Highland Park's facilities at a high school were better than their NFL facilities. So when you start looking at salaries, nobody pays their coaches better than Texas pays high school football coaches. Nobody has better facilities and stadiums and infrastructure than Texas high school football. In terms of the fertile recruiting ground, the talent, you can argue Texas has as much talent as any state out there. And football is a religion here. We take it seriously. It is an economic engine to a lot of communities. And I think that's why 40% of the top 50 high school football programs in this country are in the great state of Texas. Unbelievable. Like it was crazy. Like there's one district, a district in Houston. I think it's 23-6A, if I'm not mistaken. In Houston. No, yes, and it has North Shore, Atascocita, Summer Creek, and C.E. King all in the same district. They got number 6 in the country, number 8 in the country, number 29 in the country, and number 43 in the country, all in the same damn district. Hell, Duncanville and DeSoto are ranked number 2 and number 3 in the country, and they're in the same district in Dallas. Unbelievable. And then you see why Dallas is number 2 most fertile recruiting metro area in the country for producing NFL talent over the last 5 years. And Houston's also in the top 5. Crazy. It means more in Texas than it means anywhere else. To hell with that SEC slogan. All right, Range Report. Just really quickly, can we get to this before we go to break? Let's do this.
The Rangers Report is brought to you by Texas Truck and Trailer.
Rangers celebrated a win, 6-5 on a walk-off era and avoid a 4-game sweep to the Twins, which would not have been good. Garabito with 4 no-hit relief innings kind of came in as the hero there. Josh Young had a homer, an infield single on the final play. So some clutch play from the Rangers there. Also, if you go look at it now, the Rangers, like I said, that was big for them. The Rangers were about to lose all 4 games to the Twins before those heroic efforts to give them a 6-5 win there. So
yeah, that was a Adolis Garcia had a good, you get the extra base runner on second now to try and speed those games up. In the 10th, he was on second. The ball goes to third. Garcia is able to get to third, even though the ball's ground that way. They don't hold him at second, and in that, the throw's a little bit off, which means the first baseman has to come off. And when he tries to swing around to hit Young at first, he hits him, and then the ball flies out of the glove. And so it flew out. So Garcia just took off to home, and they walk it off that way. But it was really good base running, because you could have, in all reality, the ball to third base, if that's done and Garcia doesn't go to third, they have a man, even with the error, they maybe have men on first and third, but he could have stayed at second during that whole thing. So it was really good base running to get him home and get that win, because, they've had kind of this run this season where when their pitching looks good, they can't get the bats. And when they get the bats, their pitching goes away. And they've just had that back and forth all season long. You needed to get one out of that series with the Twins. And now you move on to the Pirates, and you're still playing some tough teams. The schedule gets a little bit easier here, I think, in a couple series. So it's just, if they want to look, we talked about the Astros have 4 straight series with above 500 teams, no days off in there. If you get a little luck and the Astros come back, you can try and dent into that, but you're pretty far back right now. You need a lot of luck to be able to get back in this.
Yeah, that was just a hell of a win. That was like one of the best wins they've had all year. They were down 4 with 9 outs left, and basically they scored 5 times in the 7th. Overcame Kirby Yates' first blown save of his season so far, his All-Star season, and then they were to beat Minnesota 6-5 in 10 innings. That was a hell of a win.
Yeah, and and they just keep having those. They're fighting in these games. I think in the last 6 games it's gone tied into the 9th or tied in the bottom of the 9th, and 2 of them are extra inning games. So you just, at a certain point, you just say, you're fighting, you're there, you just can't quite get over the hump. And I'm not sure they're going to be able to get the help in the pitching room as quickly as they need to get it, which is probably a month ago.
Yep, totally agree. All right, let's get to the break here. We'll come back and play Who Said That. That's when Patrick plays pieces of audio from the sports world, sometimes beyond. And based on the context clues or familiarity of the voice, we have to identify who said that right here on the Rodcast, featuring Patrick Davis on Lifetime Longhorn. Rod Babers coming back on the Horn.
The Rangers Report is brought to you by Texas Truck and Trailer, your premier truck accessory dealer.
Welcome back to the Rodcast. It is a Smooth Soul Monday, courtesy of my co-host, the Idealionaire. So we appreciate Patrick hooking us up with all the musically themed days of the week on a Smooth Soul Monday. We also appreciate him coming up with the topic for the big fat poll of the day, which is also posted on the Horn ATX on the X account. You can go check that out. How many yards will the leading rusher for the Texans have this season? And right now, the leader is between 8 to 900. 36% of you saying between 8 to 900 yards will be the number for the leading rusher for the Longhorns. All right, so that's the big topic for the Big Fat Poll today. Now it's time for Who Said That? That's when Patrick plays pieces of audio based on the context clues or based on the familiarity of the voice. Hopefully you can recall and identify who said that.
It's respect. It's cool and all, but I'm Caleb Williams, Patrick Mahomes, Tyreek Hill's Tyreek Hill. Much love to them and things like that. Met them, talked to them both and things like that. But we're here to win games for Chicago Bears. Awesome, the Bears. Thank everybody.
That is Caleb Williams. Oh, can we play the other cut of him saying the Bears all the time? Apparently, that is his signature sign-off. And he does it after every media availability. He goes back to the old SNL skit about the Bears and goes, the Bears.
Yeah,
every time.
Rob Swirsky's Super
Yes.
Fans, I believe is the name of that
Yes,
sketch.
yes,
If I
it's
can
Super
remember
Fans
off the
skit.
top
Thank
of
you.
my head.
Yes. Yeah, how did you know that? You're a sick mofo.
I can tell you. Here we go. Let's see if this works.
Go Bears. The Bears. The Bears. The Bears. The Bears. The Bears. The Bears.
I mean, I think it's like, so do we like or dislike this? I love it, I think I like it.
If he's winning, it works.
Yeah, that's true. If you're not winning, it doesn't work. The Bears.
Yeah.
But I used to love that skit. The Bears.
Oh, yeah.
It's fantastic, man. It shows he's got a respect, though, for a little bit of tradition. For a young guy to even know that, have referenced the Bears and that SNL skit, doesn't that say a lot about him?
It does.
Right?
It does. The best. When Michael Jordan was on it, and they had to start saying the Bulls.
The Bulls. The Bulls. What do you go? Minimum 8 Pete. Minimum 8 Pete there. 8. And by the way, they were almost right about the 8 Pete. That's the crazy thing, right? They got 6 of them, and he retired for 2.
Who wins, Chicago Bears or a hurricane? Well, that's an easy one. Trick question. The Hurricane's named Hurricane Ditka.
Yeah, Ditka. All right. Thanks for Patrick. Remember, the Revolution I Retail about talking about it right here on the Rodcast. We love you guys for being there. Take care of yourselves, but more importantly, take care of each other. Until next time, hook 'em and peace.